Is it 10 yet? Okay, officially 10 o'clock according to my phone, so the polls are now closed. Welcome to our annual meeting for 2026. I have first on the agenda, first on our agenda is a Pledge of Allegiance. We have a flag in the corner, if you'd please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next on our agenda, I'd like a moment of silence in memory of all our friends who may have passed this year, especially Kathy Schultanis and Paul Matatol. Those are two individuals who are past presidents of the EPOA, who have donated a tremendous amount of time making this village a better place to play and live. There wasn't a project, in their day, there wasn't a project that these people weren't involved with. From creating the playground to the kayak racks that you guys all use, and the everyday kind of beautification and the wonderful social events that took place back in the day. I feel privileged that they were friends of mine. Thank you. Next is our introductions, which is what's up. Okay, here we go. I'm having a technical problem, and I've had it for the past 2 years. I can't get this and my laptop to work. I've tried everything. So anyway, so I have paper, old-fashioned way. And of course, the glasses that make me able to read them. Anyway, I am the moderator for this session. Bob Ingram, for those of you who don't know me. We also have an assistant moderator, Larry Sedano, over here, who's going to help me out today. And our commissioners, Nancy Cole, Mark Graffam, Woody McNiven. Our clerk is Doug Prescott over there. We have an assistant, a deputy treasurer, Jane Gunn. Welcome. Last but not least, Jennifer Scully, who is not here today, who really kind of runs the office, makes things work. Okay. Now, some of you have heard this many times, but I'm going to go through our procedures, our rules, if you want to call them that, as quickly as I can. First of all, the moderator will read every article. It'll be moved and seconded. One of the commissioners, or a petition article, although we don't have any petition articles this year, will speak first, and then we'll open it up for discussion. All discussion questions will go through the moderator. Moderator will make every attempt to allow everyone time to speak. Raise your hand, and the moderator will call on you. Please stand and state your name before speaking. All speakers must be courteous and speak to the issues, not the individuals raising them. Moderator will not allow personal attacks or inappropriate comments and language. Any amendments to the motion must be presented in writing. We will discuss and vote one amendment at a time. And at the end of the discussion, I'll read the motion a final time, and we will vote. Only registered voters may vote. And to know that you're a registered voter, you're going to hold up the purple sheets that you all signed when you came in. That way I can see them and count and know that the voters are the ones holding them up, I guess. Anyway. Additionally, so bond issues, which we have 2 of this year. Bond issues require a 3/5 vote. Most everything else is a majority vote. This year, because they are over $100,000, Well, we have to do a ballot vote on the bonds anyway, but this year both of them are over 100,000, so we'll have to leave that voting open for an hour. Additionally, any 3 voters may request in writing a secret ballot on any of the articles. That if you really want a secret ballot, 3 people have to do it. All 3 voters must be present and make the written request prior to the vote. If you have a procedural question, simply call out point of order. I'll try to address it. Any motion made to change the order of the day will require a 2/3 vote. By majority vote, voters can overrule any of my decisions or rules. Such a request can be made by a point of order. Okay. Yes.
So can we have people come to the microphone when they are speaking so that we can pick it up?
Okay, rather than just stand, please come to the microphone so everybody in the outside world can hear you as well as us. Okay, our first article was voting for officers, which you have done, and they'll be counting them, and at some point we'll hear the results. Bringing us to Article 2. Article 2 is a purchase of a new truck. To see if the village district will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $310,000, it's a gross budget, for a new DPW truck. Also, authorize a withdrawal from the Highway Capital Reserve in the amount of $70,000, and to authorize the issuance of not more than $240,000 of bonds or notes in accordance with the provisions of the Municipal Finance Act, RSA 33, and to authorize the municipal officials to issue and negotiate such bonds or notes, and to determine the rate of interest thereon, and to further appropriate $22,300 for the first year's payment. Funds for this appropriation will be raised by taxation. Who would like to speak? Mark?
I'm going to motion it to the floor.
I'm going to move it.
Second.
Been moved and seconded.
Widow will take it.
Widow's going to speak. Okay.
Just leave it? Okay. All right. I want to stand when I'm talking. Okay. Good morning, everybody. By my count, we have about double the amount of people today than we had last year, including double the amount of voters. Can everybody hear me okay? Okay. So the first thing I want to do, it's my great pleasure to have our DPW crew here, and I want to introduce them. So we have Foreman Jeff DiMartino. Please stand, Jeff. Then our jack of all trades, Mr. Tony Eldridge. And our newest DPW employee, Andrew Manning, who is also a resident here and a voter of the Village District of Idlewice. So I really appreciate all you gentlemen showing up today. And speaking of what you guys do, I know I've seen on all the Facebook sites that are dedicated to Idlewice, as well as just personal interactions with people who have homes in Idlewice, that they said the roads this past winter have been amazing. The plowed roads, the fact that they've been really well taken care of, and they're very appreciative of that. All right, and that's great. That's a real feather in the cap for our DPW crew. However, I want to tell a little story here, if you'll indulge me. Okay, way back when I was in high school. And if this was a Johnny Carson show, everybody would say, how far back? All right, well, just to let you know, I'm having my 50th high school reunion, my class that I graduated this year. So that gives you an idea. Yes, I graduated when our nation had its bicentennial. But anyway, back then, I worked in a retail photography shop. And we used to have this guy who used to deliver us photochemical supplies from a local wholesaler. His name was Freddie, but I called him Crazy Freddie because the guy was outright crazy. He always rode his Harley Davidson, always in his leather outfit when he came in. And one day he came in, pulled out all the stuff we had ordered from him, and I was going through the inventory and saying, hey, Freddie, you know, you're missing the Kodak Dectol developer. Why isn't it here? And he looked at me, and Crazy Freddie said, Sonny, if you ain't got socks, you can't pull them up. All right. That's a phrase that has stuck with me over the last 50 years. If you ain't got socks, you can't pull them up. Well, we've got 2 trucks in our DPW arsenal that are, let's say, socks full of holes that are at the point where they can't be darned anymore. We have to replace them. And if we don't, then let's face it, the roads just are not going to get plowed to the extent they've been in the past, or as well as they've been in the past. So the first thing is Article 2, which is, it's a big truck. It's to replace our International, which is a 39,000-pound, 6-wheel truck. It's a huge truck, and it's been a workhorse for the Village District since 2009. It's a 2008 year model. And my DPW guys constantly keep telling me every time they drive it over to Coleman, the Coleman people shake their heads saying, that thing's still working? That thing's still rolling? Yeah, it is, but barely. So that's a major part of our arsenal for not only snow plowing, but for improving the roads, of which we did quite a bit last year, and we want to do a lot more this year with the FEMA monies we've gotten that Mark is going to address later. So it's a big Western Star. Yeah, it's expensive, $310,000. But here's the hopefully possibly good news about this particular truck is there's a program out right now called the Granite State Clean Fleets Program. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to replace old dirty diesel trucks with newer, less dirty diesel trucks. And they're willing to, if you get accepted or you win the grant, reimburse you up to 80% of the purchase price. All right, so we submitted our paperwork. They came back and said, congratulations, you are a selectee. We didn't realize there was a second part to this. So we got the documents in for the second part. It's all in place. It's going to go up before the Executive Council either later this month or early April, and we should get a decision back next month as to how much, if any, we will get reimbursed for this particular truck. But the thing to keep in mind is we have to initially finance 100% of this truck ourselves. All right, so as the warrant article says, we're willing to pull out $70,000 out of a capital reserve fund. Then we got to raise $240,000 in financing. But the good news is if we get awarded 80%, then that covers that $240,000. We can then just pay off and service that debt immediately, so it won't be part of the tax burden next year. So it's a gamble, but we think we have a real good shot at getting some, if not all, of that money. The town of Madison actually got their 80% grant on a big truck that they're purchasing. So that's my presentation regarding Article 2, warrant Article 2. And just, again, this big truck, not only for snow plowing, great for really heavy snows, it'll be a crucial component of all the road improvements and repair work we have planned for the remainder of this year.
Okay, I'm opening it up for discussion from the audience. If anybody has a question? No questions? No concerns? Okay, we can vote. And the way we're going to vote is you're going to take your purple sheet and you're going to vote at the very bottom where it says number 1 and rip that off and bring it up to, yes, you got a question?
You gotta come up to the mic.
Nick, come up here, please, Nick.
My name is Nick Curley. I'm asking for the town employees, the department here, to be able to
Okay, you're making a motion.
motion for them to
Okay.
speak, as well as any resident here, or not
Okay.
resident, but non-resident, sorry,
Okay,
non-voting resident.
right. And I apologize, I was going to have you do that before we started Article 1.
Okay.
But since nobody wants to speak, let's finish doing this part of it, and then I'll accept your motion before we go to the next article. Okay? Because nobody wants to speak on it anyway, so let's do that. Okay, so again, while you're, you're gonna use the number 1, tear that off, and just bring it up to the ballot box, okay?
What, would this be number 2?
These are not article numbers, this is just the number of times we may need to vote, although we probably won't go beyond the 2.
So the poll will open at 10:15, Bob?
And what time is it?
10:15.
10:15, okay, so we have to wait till 11:15 before we get results on this article. Yep. Back to that, okay, Article 3. Okay. Okay, Nick, you have made a motion. Do I have a second to Nick's motion to allow non-resident property owners or people outside to speak? You got a second?
Second.
Okay. Clearly, all right. All right, now, all those in favor? Opposed? Again, needed, okay. So that's good, and I apologize for not, I was gonna have that done first thing. We always had Jay Buckley, who always started that before the meeting started.
He did.
So, I can't hear you, Nick.
Also the DPW as well.
Okay, so, all right, let's, because all right, the motion should have included them.
Yeah.
But we,
Yeah.
but it didn't. So let's include a motion to allow specifically. So far, we're allowing non-resident property owners to speak. And I don't know if we even have any of those people here, but, okay, so we're allowing you to speak. You can't vote, but you can speak. So the second motion is specifically to allow the DPW guys who don't live or have property here. And second for that, Paul? All those in favor? I don't see any purple. Okay, all those opposed? That's unanimous. Okay, one other piece of information. Congratulations to Mark Graffam for another 3 years on the board. Yeah. Congratulations to Jane Gunn, who is going to be our new treasurer. And congratulations to Larry Sedano, who is going to be our moderator for next year.
What are the numbers, Bob? Bob, what are the numbers?
You want the numbers?
Yes, please.
Okay. 25 for you, nobody else. 26, and 11 for Larry, and 3 for me. Okay. All right, now, next article. Right there. Yep. Article 3, purchase of a new truck. To see if the village district will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $180,000, gross budget, for the purchase of a new truck, and to authorize the issuance of not more than $180,000 of bonds or notes in accordance with the provisions of the Municipal Finance Act, RSA 33, and to authorize the municipal officials to issue and negotiate such bonds or notes and to determine the rate of interest thereon. Further, to appropriate $16,700 for the first year's payment. Funding for this appropriation will be raised by taxation. We have a motion?
A motion.
Mark moves it,
Second.
and Nancy seconds it. Who wants to speak on it? Buddha?
It's me again. All right. So again, this falls under the, if you ain't got socks, you can't pull them up. So in our arsenal of DPW, we've got the international truck currently, which I addressed in Article 2. Then we've got 2 Dodge Ram 5500s. We have a grader and we have a backhoe. The two Dodges, the International, and even the grader can all be called into service for plowing. In general, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jeff, but I believe that the standard operating procedure is during any snowfall, we have to have two guys out there, generally in the two Dodges, but it could be the Dodge and the International. Really heavy snowfalls, then we try and have all three of the crew in, bringing in the big guns like the International or the grader if it's really bad. But the point being is that we have another truck, being the Dodge 2019. You'd think it'd be the Dodge 2018, but the 2018 is in much better condition than the 2019. The 2019 is in dire condition. Just to let you know, for the last 3 years in a row, we've spent approximately, on average, $10,000 to $12,000 a year on repairs and maintenance of that particular truck. There's a lot of reasons for that. I'm not going to go into that right here, but it wasn't as well taken care of in the past. That our current crew does excellent maintenance and tender loving care of our vehicles. But that one is on its way out. So that's why we are asking the voters to approve this Article 3, which is a purchase of a brand new Dodge 5500 for plowing, but they use it for other things too. Sanding as well, don't forget that. It gets all outfitted with plows and sanding and side winging. And this truck, like the Western Star 2, I failed to mention, they're more modern, so there's more safety features which will just make our DPW crew safer as well. Things like backup cameras. Our current trucks, when you back them up without a camera, you know what our roads are like. Sometimes it's pretty hazardous, some of those hills going down. So there's nice safety features built into these new trucks. So I ask you, I know it's a big ask, but please approve this one. We really need these two trucks. Okay, thank you.
Is there any questions or? Yes, Paul.
Paul McKenna, what's the mileage on the trucks? And with maintenance, do they perform oil samples and things like that so they can tell, guess at the longevity of what's going on?
Anybody?
I might have to call on the Jeff to help out here, but I know the International is pretty low mileage, but I told you it's a 2008 year model, okay? So it's like totally rusted out, and it only gets, idling it gets 1 mile to the gallon, going gets 3 miles to the gallon. But we're talking about really the Dodge 5500. Jeff, about how much mileage is on the 2019 right now?
There's 31,000 miles on the 2019. We don't generally put a ton of mileage on in the district. The district is made up of...
Could you just step up to the mic? Thanks.
The district is made up of around 17 miles. So we stay in the district, so we don't put a lot of mileage on our trucks. So for the years, they're relatively low mileage, really low mileage. But the mileage that they do get is rugged. The terrain in there is rugged. We're twisting and turning constantly. So the rear ends, the front ends wear out a lot faster than a truck or a car with 100,000 miles on it. Just the nature of the beast. They're loaded constantly. They're twisting, they're turning back into places to fix the roads and to do the maintenance and the road work that's being done. They do get scheduled maintenance as far as oil changes and filters and all that.
Oil samples.
The samples. Yes. Yeah, no, I understand. I just trust in my mechanics that fix the vehicles, the dealerships, and our local guy. I haven't had them pull samples to see what what the resistance or the velocity is on the oils. They just put the recommended.
What's wearing, okay? An oil sample will turn around and say the rings are going in
Has to be at the microphone.
Yeah, we can't hear you, Paul.
Right.
stuff like that.
No, I understand what you're saying. I mean, that's not something that I've had done on the vehicles. But again, I trust in the dealerships to put the right stuff in and to do the right things on the maintenance. But that's, I don't know if that answers the question
No,
about the
I
mileage.
think you did, unless somebody's got some other questions, but I'd like to add, just remember, I'm sure everybody here has shoveled their own driveway, or if not driveway, a walkway. You know what that's like here in the wintertime. Now think about these trucks, how many tons and tons and tons of snow they're pushing off the roads to, make them drivable. That's why you get a lot more wear and tear on a lower mileage vehicle, because they're workhorses.
Paul, you want another question? You good?
When you buy these vehicles, they are equipped with like a transmission cooler, and they're supposed to be equipped for heavy duty, and they are. So it's not like they're gonna break, with low mileage, and if it's maintained properly, you're supposed to get a lot out of them.
Paul, all I can say is in the past, under former leadership, the trucks were not as well maintained as they should have been. Our current crew is doing their darndest to maintain them as best they can. And we as a board have talked in the past that we're looking at a 7-year extended warranty on these vehicles, and when we get to the end of the warranty, at which point they should still be in very good shape, we will trade them in or sell them off for a new model. But again, that's 7 years down the road, and the new vehicles we get will be maintained much better than our vehicles have been in the past.
Yep.
Hi, Terry Cancelarich. So I have a question on the bonds, which, what do you know I'm going to ask? So I'm curious to know the term and the rate on the bonds, and what muni official is the issuer? Is it the New Hampshire Bond Bank, or is it some other issuer? Thank you.
I can't answer that, Terry. That has not been worked out yet. We have to look at what capital lease programs are out there, because in the case of the big truck, with the possible the Granite State Clean Fleet, we can't do an operational lease. Not that we do that anyway, but that's not permitted. So we have to shop around for a bank note or a capital lease program that will give us the most favorable terms.
Any other questions? Okay, well, we're ready to vote. Do I need to read this again? To see if the village district will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $180,000 for the purchase of a new truck, and to authorize the issuance of not more than $180,000 of bonds or notes in accordance with the provisions of the Municipal Finance Act, RSA 33. To authorize the municipal officials to issue and negotiate such bonds or notes, and to determine the rate of interest thereon. Further, to appropriate $16,700 for the first year's payment. Funding for this appropriation will be raised by taxation. Okay, we're ready to vote. So now we're going to take number 2 from the bottom, and that's where you're going to vote. And there'll be a different box for you to put it in. And the time is
10:28.
10:28. So we're waiting for 11:15 and 11:28.
I'll tell you when it's 11:15.
Before we go on to the next article, which is the operations and highway budget, Mark, do you want to speak on this? Give us a sort of an update on the FEMA reimbursements from last year's meeting. There was several different projects, and they were going to be done as we got reimbursements from FEMA. And Mark, are you going to speak on this? Or?
Sure.
Okay.
Bob attended the budget hearing about 4 weeks ago and asked for a short presentation on the FEMA projects. In July of 2023, we had the second major rainstorm of that year. And it was the second one in July was declared a disaster by FEMA. And the board at that time, which were none of us, asked the state permission to withdraw $50,000 out of the capital reserves to pay for some repairs starting. That board didn't apply for any reimbursements that year. So we had to start working backwards. The state of New Hampshire receives the money from FEMA and doles it out. We have to report all kinds of details to the state and FEMA before they start to reimburse. The first thing they reimbursed us for was the replacement of the water main on Grisson that got blown out when the Grisson Road failed to hold the water back. The culverts failed. There was a big mess over there. That money was taken out of the water assessment fund to pay for that pipe replacement. So we got $7,200 back from FEMA in New Hampshire, and that went right back into the water assessment fund. So that's not in play for any future projects under the FEMA projects. It's back where we can use it for what we need to do for the water system. FEMA also evaluated the design that we already had approved by the state of New Hampshire, that we got a contractor to estimate that it would be over $500,000 to fix that culvert on Grisson that had the water main and the road blowout. FEMA decided that that was too high. They have a centralized resource center that analyzed that drawing and said that we won't reimburse for that. You have to get the price down on that. But what they did do was sent us $42,258.79 as 75% of an advance to get a new design approved by the state that would be a lower cost. We've been working on that since last June to get the state of New Hampshire to even look at it. And we have a video conference set up for this Tuesday, finally, to talk to the state about whether they're even going to let us apply for a lower cost design. And our engineer will be on that call. So that's money we have in the bank, but that's specifically for a new design of a low cost culvert solution on Grisson. We went back over all of the invoices and work, and the work we did in 2024 and the work that the Highway Department did in 2025 using a couple of specialized contractors. We submitted enough to get $219,557.95 back as 75% of what we applied for. So that money's in the bank. We decided that we were going to take that money and continue to invest in the roads. We want to ditch the heck out of right-of-ways to get the drainage system all working to protect the roads. And we want to put new surfaces down of gravel and asphalt. We've already contracted an asphalt contractor to come in and do $30,000 worth of repairs on the shoulders of paved roads that got damaged back in July. Playground Hill's an example of that. There's parts of Aspen. So that's already scheduled. We have a deposit down. We have a first week in June date to have that company come in and start doing $30,000 worth of shoulder fixes, 4 feet off the shoulder. In red, I have $25,297.37 that we just applied for last month on the 11th of February. That was for the last 4 weeks of last year that the Highway Department was running around between doing preparation for the winter and doing some FEMA projects. So we finished out covering everything up through the end of last year. So the next line down has a figure of $362,865.12. That's what FEMA estimated they would pay 75% of total amount of work on the roads, not counting asphalt, not counting fixing the culvert, just doing ditching and surfaces, gravel surfaces. So we've already got reimbursed for $244,855. That's combining what we already got paid and the $25,000 that we submitted for. We expect to get that money in too. So that's that total of $24,855.32. That means there's another $118,009.80 that we can apply for again. So we're taking the money that we already got 75% of, gonna invest that back in the roads, turn around and reapply to FEMA for 75% of that, which means we are expecting to be able to collect another $118,900.80. So that's the FEMA story. I think I told you I'd do that in 40 seconds,
Yep.
and I think it took a little more.
Any questions? Well, thank you for the update.
When we get to the operating budget, which Bob might be holding off on until the truck bit comes in, we want to lower the bottom line of the operating budget by $10,000 when we get to that. And the reason for that is we're going to be buying so much gravel, we only have a certain amount of time in the summertime to get all this stuff done, that we figure that we won't spend that $10,000 out of the operating budget because we'll be putting so much gravel down by FEMA that we don't want to take your money and hold it in this case. So we'll be doing, that'll be one of two reductions that we'll propose here, depending upon how the vote of the trucks go.
Thanks. Okay, moving on to Article 4. This is the operations and highway budget. I would like to entertain a motion from somebody to postpone this. And
Motion.
The reason for okay, somebody moved, Mark, and seconded, Kerry? Okay, so the reason for postponing is because, as Mark just said, depending on how the vote goes on the two trucks, there could be changes in the budget. Rather than have a budget discussion now and then have to go back and reconsider it after the 11:15, 11:28 time frame, I'd rather just postpone it and we'll have the discussion at that time on this. Meanwhile, we can move on to the next article. Is there a motion? And it's been seconded by Carrie. All those in favor of postponing? All those opposed? It's unanimous. Okay, now, Article 5. Article 5 is the water system budget. To see if the village district will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $257,046 for the purpose of the water budget. This special article is a special warrant article per RSA 32.3 4D and 6D and RSA 32.7.5, I guess. The governing body recommend this operation. This appropriation is to be funded by the water user fee. So it's not coming out of your taxes, it's going to come for your fee. We have a motion to accept? Motion to,
Second.
and seconded by Nancy. I don't know who wants to speak. Wooda?
All right, me again. All right, so the important thing, the big takeaway is the fact that this is not an item that affects your taxation. It is your water fees that pay for the water operations budget. And the water fees are not going up this year. They're the same as they were last year. Was that 520? What was the, I don't remember the exact amount. I think it was 520, 540 in that, but the point is that, what's that? 525. It is not going up. And if you take a look at the water budget, the projected budget for 2026 is, for all intents and purposes, flat compared to what we proposed for 2025. And if you really want to geek out about it, it's 0.4% less than 2025. The unlike in past years, especially when they're working on the Rhinoc project, right now our sort of modus operandi is that we should only collect through water fees enough money to pay the regular operating expenses of the water system. The revenues will always be a little bit ahead of expenses, but it shouldn't be grotesquely so. For major capital improvements to the water system, by and large, that should be on the taxation side, and I think we have some of that later. But again, this is your water budget paid by your water fees. It's flat compared to last year. Your rates are not going up.
Any questions? You can see the different line items here within this water budget. If you have any questions? No questions? Okay. Brings us back to voting, I guess, huh? And I'll read it once more. To see if the village district will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $257,046 for the purpose of the water budget. The special articles, special warrant article, and the governing body recommends this appropriation. This appropriation is to be funded by water user fees. All those in favor? All those opposed? It's unanimous. Okay, brings us to Article 6. And for Article 6, I'm going to ask Larry if you would step in, since I would like to speak on this article. I cannot do that as a moderator. One of the things you are required as a moderator is to be impartial, and I have opinions about this, so, okay? All right. Just flip this on you.
Can we hear? Oh, right here. Technical difficulty. There we go. All right. Thanks. And thank you, folks, who voted for me. Hopefully I can fill Bob's shoes. And I'd like to thank Bob for being moderator for all the years that he's done a great job at that. So we'll read the article. To see if the village will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $1,600 for the purpose of parking permits and signs for the beaches. Funding for this appropriation will come from taxation. Do we have a...
I'll motion that to the floor.
Second.
And Nancy seconded. As their discussion.
I have discussion.
Oh, yes.
So this idea of parking permits for the beaches started over 14 years ago, and it's been on the ballot several times. There's always been a mix of people that wanted this to happen, and to date, there's been a little bit more people showing up at the meeting that decided they didn't want to vote for it. And usually, the argument against doing it was that it was unenforceable. When this came up last year or the year before, the previous chief of police thought it was completely doable because they do it at the Madison Beach at the foot of the lake. You can't park down there unless you have the stickers that we all have on our windshields for going to the transfer station and so forth. That's their parking permit. We had an unusual run of the use of our beaches by people who don't own property here during the COVID, so that sample years is kind of like out of the norm. But that's when people really started noticing how our beaches were being used. So we're putting it on the warrant again with the idea of we would start with just 3 beaches. We have 5 beaches that we maintain. The 3 beaches, the ones that are on Idlewives Drive, which are the most used by people who don't live here because they see them. The other beaches, you don't know where they are unless you know where they are. So we're leaving those out of this article. This is to fund hanging from car mirror passes, like handicap temporary passes, which can move from car to car. Each property owner would get one of these. And we would also have to put up signs for the police to be able to enforce this at the 3 beaches, which would be Little Pond, called Boulder Beach, Otterwise Beach, where the basketball courts are, and Thusis Beach, which is near Thusis Road. So, here it is. You can vote for it. If you don't vote for it, we'll put it up again next year. We'll keep doing it until the voters that attend this meeting decide that they want to pull the trigger and start to do this.
Any comments? Hold on, Bob, we have, in the back?
Why not just use the,
State your name.
Nick Borelli, Madison? Why not use the stickers that we use like the town does? The town already has done the whole thing with trying to have a plaque or anything like that, and they found that it just doesn't work. And that's why they went to using the sticker only for the dump as well as the parking.
Anyone else? Bob?
Are we going to answer?
Okay.
I got answers.
Number one, I have one sticker for the town of Madison. I have family. My house is not just for me. My family comes almost every weekend in the summer. We can't not fit in one car. If we're going to do this, which I'm not exactly sure why, but if we're going to do this, then we need to have the ability of having more than one placard or whatever you want to call that. And I have several examples that I would ask what the solution would be in these examples. But to use the sticker from the town of Madison, first of all, that doesn't preclude people from Madison coming to use the beaches, which I thought was the reason why we were doing this. Not that I think it should be. I think that we have had a vacation village here for decades, and it's until recently, really until COVID, that we've seen truly outside people here regularly. Anyway, number one, Geneva Beach, I have had multiple conversations with people sitting on Geneva Beach from hotels in North Conway. So don't say that that doesn't get it, because it does. I have an example I'd like to give. I don't know, some people like to golf, and others in the family might be at the beach. So what happens when they have don't have a placard? Do we have to go and pick them up and bring them back? That's one thing. As far as that would be the number of placards, I think that every household should have at least 2, including people on the water, because hey, not everybody has a raft. Maybe the kids want to use the raft. They want to go to that beach. They pay the same amount of money, in taxes as everybody else. So I don't know how many this $1,600 is going to purchase for those. So it's one of my questions. What are we really paying for here? But my bigger problem is parking at the beaches. Now I understand. I got very upset when they put the no parking in last August, but I understand it now because I wasn't told that the purpose of doing this was to privatize the beaches until I saw down at Porridge Shore where the sign said you can park there if you're a property owner or guest. Then it clarified me what we were actually doing here. And I understand we can't privatize it and have parking on the roads because you can't get them off the beach. After having a conversation with the police last week, he made me understand that it is very easily enforceable. I will agree with that. He told me that, yeah, they would come through maybe a couple times a day and stop at the beaches. I don't really picture them getting out at every beach parking lot and checking all the cars for something, but if it's something that's very easily, spotted, it may work. I think what it will do is it'll deter people from coming, and once they get that, message. I'm not standing here opposed to it. If people want to privatize the beaches, then that's fine. What I really am concerned about is being able to use the beach. Like I said, I have family that come. I have 2 kids and their families, and they're not here every weekend, but most weekends. It requires more than 1 vehicle. It requires at least 2 vehicles, but you can't all fit in 1 vehicle. My question really becomes to the parking issue. What happens when I go down to the beach and half the kids come with me, and so we have 2 placards, another car comes. Well, half the people went in to go shopping, or maybe they went to play golf, and they're gonna come back. Now, what do? Do I have to leave and go pick them up? Okay, that's even acceptable. When I leave the beach and I come back and there's no place to park, then what do? Everybody go off the beach, get back in the cars, we have to leave. I also talked to the police about the possibility of allowing parking on those streets near the beach as overflow if we need it. And they would have a sticker, you could simply say, if they've got one of those placards hanging and it's there, then they wouldn't ticket it. Another scenario. For years, I have been part of the VLAP. And we go to the beaches and we park. When we get to the Thusis Beach, I almost always, there's at least 3 cars, sometimes 4, almost always have to park on the street because there's only such a few parking spots. If you park behind somebody and now you've gone off in the lake for 40 minutes, those people are trapped. So we don't do that. We always park on the street. Now I can't do that because who's going to say that the police are going to come by and ticket me? So my concern here is the parking issue. I think that we need to allow, with that placard, parking near the beaches. And I know that's really a little bit outside the realm of this, but I would not vote for this unless I knew that I was going to be able to use the beach when we wanted to use the beach. And I think everybody who does use the beach probably would agree. They want to be able to use it when they want to use it. For decades, I've been here for 22 years, going to Geneva Beach for 22 years. Every single year, not pre-COVID, 20 years ago, there were times where we had to park on the going out of the beach on that road. Always, every year. Now, a handful, 2, 3 days a week, summer, it's got to be beach weather, it's mostly in July, and it's usually a weekend. It's not that much. And now if we're saying, okay, because of this, we're going to have less cars, even less times that we will have to park outside the parking lot. But I would like to hear somebody telling me that we can be able to do this before I vote for it.
Karen?
Carrie McNiven. I'm going to speak to voting yes on this. It bugs the crap out of me that I look at real estate listings to a neighbor very close to Edelweiss, and they say, you have access to all of Edelweiss's beaches. They're not paying the taxes we are to keep those beaches. And as part of the Property Owners Association, we do the cookouts on the beaches. And I can't tell you how many times we've been at the cookout and somebody gives us a very nice donation because they don't live in Edelweiss, but they use our beaches every single weekend. And they're not renting, and they're not Bob's family members. Okay, and that, we pay really high taxes. I'm in favor of privatizing our beaches. I do agree with Bob, we need more than 1 placard. That would be nice to have 2, with a big fine if you lose yours, so that you don't make, oh, I lost one. Here's one to my friend who lives someplace else. I'm also agree that we shouldn't use the Madison sticker because not everyone has a Madison sticker. So that's my 2 cents.
Just a few points on this. So Bob, the beaches already are private. So the VDOE owns, yes they are, and I can prove it. The VDOE owns the land for the parking lots, and they own the land to the water's edge. I spoke to a number of people about this, including attorney Thomas Quarles of a law firm in Manchester. And not only is he an attorney, he's also the chair of the State Public Water Access Advisory Board and the chair of the New Hampshire Supreme Court Public Protection Fund Committee, who told me the same thing. Again, the Village District of Idlewild owns the parking lots, and they own the land to the water's edge. Therefore, that land is owned by the taxpayers, okay? That's number one. So the beaches are already private. It's just that the commissioners in the past have allowed the public to use those beaches for free. And as everyone who's paid taxes now knows, the town of Madison has put in place, added appraised value to your property taxes for the deeded right that you have to use the beaches, all right? So if you do the math on that, which I somewhat did, and I tried calling Linda Shackford to get the precise number, but she didn't have it, and unfortunately she's no longer here. If you would take, on average, $59,000 is added to everyone's assessed value, okay? And you times that by about the number of houses, a rough guesstimate, that are not waterfront properties, it's about 400. You take that amount, times it all together, and you apply the Madison and the VDOE tax rate to that $59,000. In total, the town of Madison collects, because of our private beaches, nearly $500,000. This is something that the taxpayers of Idlewild are paying for, and up until now, the commissioners have allowed the public to use that for free. And I, for one, agree with you. I think parking should be expanded in the summer months so that people can park on the streets around the beaches to accommodate all the people who want to be able to use the beach. But I don't vote in this community, but I wholeheartedly approve of doing this because we too have run into people. And actually Mark brought up a great example at the special budget meeting in November, where Conway had a bus pull up and drop off a number of people to the beach. We've also encountered people at Thusis Beach, and it's advertised at their condo complex to come to Thusis Beach or one of the other beaches because everything is free. So again, not a voter, but I wholeheartedly support this.
Bob? Ever?
Just a quick one.
Sure.
I'm not standing here necessarily opposed to it. What I want to be assured is that my family can use the beach. I personally would like to see 3 plackets because it sometimes takes 3 cars. If we're at the beach and there's a third, and there's some people aren't there, okay, come back. But I understand. I mean, at minimum 2. One of the things that I talked with the police last week, they suggest that it be a sequenced numbers on the placket so that we could, and he also told me that he would check on that. Now, that doesn't preclude somebody from dropping off a busload of people and they walk on the beach. We're not solving that problem, but we certainly will cut down on the outsiders using the beach. I don't have a problem with that. I just think that I want to be able to park near the beach so that we can continue to use it as we have for decades.
Mr. Moderator?
Mr.
Couple
Graham?
of points. If you're in favor of this, but you want 2 placards for each family, then $400 of this $1,600 is for the signage. That's $1,200 for making 500 large placards. So you should amend this to the 2 placard cost if you're in favor of this. That's one point. The second point was the previous speaker said the commissioners allowed people to come to the beaches. As I said, this has been on the warrant on and off for 14 years. It's the voters of Idlewild that allow people to use our beaches. Because if they voted to take a step against it, then we would have been doing that. Previous boards would have been doing that. But the vote has always been that it was unenforceable, let's not do it.
We didn't see the amount of money on our tax bill until, I think, 5 years, the previous evaluation, which was, I think, 20,000, and it jumped up to 50-something thousand. That, I think, is what really has sparked most of us a concern. We were paying all that money, maybe it should be covered. I'm not, like I say, I'm not totally opposed to it as long as we can continue to use them as we have.
Mr. Moderator.
Yes. Yep.
I'd like to see if they're gonna do this, that every year they have to issue whatever amount they get. For the simple reason, this can get out of control where you get 3 this year, you get 3 next year, all of a sudden you got a ton of them. So annually, they should be issued with whatever amount they come up with per household. Different colors or whatever.
So Mark, a question, if the number of plackets were to double, the cost was it 400 or 500?
So if you want to have 2 placards per house, it's, the cost of the placards is $1,200 out of the 16, 400 is signs, so you'd be amending this up to $2,800 to have every house get 2 placards.
I would move that amendment.
I'll second it.
Do we need that in writing, I believe?
I still have a question.
Oh, please, sorry.
We should be speaking to the amendment now.
Speaking to specifically to the change in the money, right? I guess there was a second, right?
Yes.
Someone carried it,
right here.
right?
All right, so now we know, do we have
It's gonna increase to
8,
2,800.
2,800? Yeah. we
No.
do. No?
just the number change.
Oh, okay. All right, so the motion on the floor is to revise the $1,600 for the purpose of the parking permits and signs to $2,800 for purchasing 2
Placards.
parking permits per household. And are there any comments to the motion? Yes?
In my opinion, you're defeating the purpose where we don't have a lot of parking. And as far as the parking on the side of the beaches, on the roads, that makes no sense at all, because what's happening, you're making a bad situation if there's any emergency for emergency equipment to get to the beach. It makes no sense at all.
Yeah, Bob?
I'd like to speak to that. The purpose of them rising, I believe, is to make sure that renters can't use the beach. And I don't think that is the purpose that we wanted to make here. My understanding, if I look at,
Point of order, we should be talking about the change to the dollar amount
well,
now. You have to come back for that.
it,
You gotta stay on the $2,800
Yeah,
amendment.
we are talking about the increase in funding here.
okay, so I guess my question about the 2,800 then, is this, you expect this to be a yearly thing, or there'll be something added to the budget every year because you're gonna have to get some people will move and not give it to you, you're gonna have to get some. So will be some monies added and you'll figure that out by next year?
Yes.
Okay, so
What
you're
we will
comfortable
do
with the
is it will
2,800?
increase the Parks and Recreation budget annually for however much the
Okay,
the
would be. Okay,
packets
all
are going
right.
to cost.
All right, so again, the motion on the floor is to increase the budget for parking permits and signs from $1,600 to $2,800. Are there any more comments? Then shall we call the motion and vote? All in favor of the amendment? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. All opposed? None. The amendment passes. So, question to the,
Now, he gets to
we
speak.
can now speak to the issue as a whole, right?
So I actually have kind of 2 questions. The first, I heard in there somewhere that waterfront owners would not get permits. Is that correct or not correct?
That's not correct.
That's not correct. Okay. My second question, I guess, is more a procedural one. I mean, it seems like the words on there do not reflect at all what we're going to do here. There's been a lot of discussion about, are they hang tags, are they not hang tags? Can we rephrase this so it's clearer what this $2,800 now is going to actually do? Or does it have to stay sort of generic like this?
You can change the language if you give the moderator the change in writing, if you're changing the text of the warrant article.
Okay. Thank you.
Do you have a suggestion in word change?
Well, I guess I'd kind of like to see it quite a lot more detailed with exactly what's going to happen here, that we're going to have 2 hang tags per house, that is parking permits only, you know, actually what we're actually going to do here, because I worry we'll go away with this and, you know, we'll forget what this conversation was, and 3 months from now something different will have happened. So it'd be kind of nice if it was better documented, is my comment.
Larry?
Well, if you have language, Nancy.
Just like to let people know that what we would wind up doing is we would wind up changing the beach ordinance, because the beach ordinance is the one that clearly defines who parks, where they park, and everything regarding the beaches. So there would be an update to the beach ordinance that would clearly outline 2 per house, or whatever the final amount is, that would be coming up, and that would have a public hearing, as all ordinance changes are required by law.
Yes.
I think this needs to be thought through in a lot more detail. Maybe you have thought it through in a lot more detail, but I used to live in a neighbourhood where they introduced parking permits for the beach, and it was an administrative nightmare. It was a massive amount of work to issue these permits, particularly if you're looking at reissuing them every year. How do you get them to each home owner? How do you know that they're not being misused? How do you reissue them each year? Are you adding registration numbers to them? What happens to people who move in part the way through the year? If you're doing it once a year? It was a massive, massive administrative job, and far exceeded the size of the problem. So I think we need to be sure that the size of the problem is such that it justifies the administrative time and the cost of doing this. And personally, I don't feel like I have anything like enough definite information about what the plan is. I think it's worth working out a detailed plan for people to vote on, but I see no detailed plan.
Yes. Excuse me, your name, please? Janet Keys. Yes.
Janet Keene, Keene, 15 Interlaken Circle.
Who's that
Thank you
fellow
for-
that's with you?
My husband, Roger.
Roger.
Thank you. It's for our clerk. Woodard, you got to come?
Yeah. Okay. First in response, Keene, right? Ms. Keene? Speaking strictly for me, I'd say that's something that requires civic involvement. A couple of years ago, there was an ad hoc committee formed to try and flesh out all these issues we're talking about today if we went to a beach parking permit system for Idlewild homeowners only. It didn't get very far, but it was a good idea, and I still think it's a good idea. If you think things like this need to be fleshed out, then, you know, I hope you're not all looking at us 3 commissioners and hoping we're going to answer all the problems and address every scenario, because we got much more important fish to fry. But this is an important one, okay? Then to address Bob Ingram's concern before, part of our gut feeling is if we can eliminate non-Idlewild homeowners from using those parking spaces, that will free up parking spaces for legitimate Idlewild homeowners. And then third, I think this is pretty obvious, but I'm just going to reiterate it, and goes back to Mr. Borelli's question about why don't we just use the Madison sticker? Well, we discussed that, but the reason is obvious. Madison homeowners we are Madison homeowners. We pay taxes in Madison, so of course we can use Silver Lake. But Madison homeowners that don't live in Idlewild don't pay our taxes. So that's why we want our own tag system to identify homeowners of Idlewild, and they can legitimately use the parking spaces.
Any other comments? Yes.
Mike Dolan, I live in Oak Street. I was thinking that if you're going to do these tags, can't you do like Madison does and have it for 2 years? And that'll cut the cost.
Can I answer that?
Yeah. Can you?
The plan that we have in front of us doesn't have a lot of details because, as Nancy was saying, all these, we need to know that this should go forward before we start spending our time. We have a lot of things to do. This board spends a lot of time working on weekends to cover everything that's in this warrant, and there's more than what's in this warrant that we work on. So we're not going to invest a lot of time in this if this isn't going to go anywhere because of this vote. This gives us the funding. That's all this does as far as the plan. What we have discussed is that these placards, we don't know how long they're going to last. It's not the plan to reissue all new ones every year. That's not what we have talked about. But we're listening to the feedback we're getting here. It sounds like we might be closer than we ever have to actually having to flesh out the entire plan. As Nancy was saying, the entire plan gets fleshed out at budget hearings. What Woodard is talking about is interaction with the community. If the community wants to have an advisory board before we actually write what we want to change in the beach ordinance. So it could be that we take all summer to actually implement this, and it doesn't actually go into effect until 2027. It's not going to happen tomorrow because of this vote, I can guarantee you that. But this was to get 500 printed with numbers on them, and we would see how long it would be before we had to start reprinting them. So that hasn't even been established. But before it went into effect, there'd be a possible committee and a beach ordinance hearing, and then we would vote to implement that ordinance based on what the beach hearing had to be.
One other thing, wouldn't it make sense for us to notify these places that are saying, oh, hey, you can all go to, the beaches at Idlewild, it's free, and let them know that that's only for people who are residents?
That's been done by the EPOA in past years, and
the signs that you're going to put up, are they going to say, no parking allowed unless you have a sticker?
we would work out the exact wording with the chief, because the police need the wording to be exactly what they need it to be to enforce this, and they tell us how many signs they want at the beach and where they should be located, because that's their tool.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Crazy, but why don't you just, after what Marcus said, why don't you just go back to the $1,600? They make a plan, and then next year, if there's a problem, if you need to change the amounts of stickers, whatever it is, at that time you can change it, how much the money is.
Because we can't give Bob 3 tags right away.
Well, give them one for now. So start off with that,
Oh, Bob.
and then work it out like you were saying. It's pretty simple. Keep the money down.
Is that a formal motion to,
So there's a motion on the floor now.
yeah,
Needs a second.
So enunciate the motion.
He wants to change it back to $1,600.
is that a formal motion, or is it is? Do we have a second?
Nope. It dies.
No second? All right, we have a,
Okay, I'd like to propose a change in wording, if I may, which says, to see if the village will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $2,800 for the purpose of providing 2 hang tags for each property in Idlewild, and to update the beach ordinance to allow parking on the roads within 100 yards of the beach between July 1st and September 30th.
can I have it again?
My voting slip.
Oh. I don't think we have any more, well, we have to raise it. I guess, should I restate the motion?
Didn't we vote on his motion, which is different than the motion that he did? So we have to either vote yes or no on going back to the.
No, there was no second on it.
It was not seconded.
We didn't get a second, so, yeah. So,
Pay attention, Gary.
all right, so the motion on the floor is
Wake
to
up.
change.
Larry, it's 11:15, you can close the first poll. Article 2 for the truck. Is it Article 2?
Oh, closed, yes. So, all right, the motion on the floor is changing the language from what's on the screen to, right, to see if the village will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $2,800 for the purpose of providing 2 hang tags for each property in Idlewild, and to update the beach ordinance to allow parking on the roads within 100 yards of the beach between July 1st and September 30th. Yes.
I just had one comment. If you, that didn't address
your
Sharon
neighbor.
Monroe,
Thank you.
16 Little Shore Drive. The signs. So you said parking permits, the ordinance, but I didn't see the word signs, and we need it for the police.
So, okay, now we have Robert's Rules of Order. No, that's actually a good point.
His motion didn't get seconded, but I bet his wife might.
Yeah. So now we need to amend the amendment,
No, we don't do, we vote on it,
on the amendment and then
and then
amend
you
it.
go back and change it.
All right. Okay, so all in favor, oh, sorry, is there more discussion? Oh, sorry.
Because I'm questioning, you mentioned earlier.
Go to the microphone.
Microphone, yeah, Bob.
You mentioned earlier that it was going to be for the 3 beaches on Edelweiss Drive. If that's expanded to Geneva, do we have to add any extra money for the signs that you'd put on Geneva, and how much would that be?
Yes, Bob.
If this warrant article passes, the voters have told us that they want this whole structure. If we add another beach, that would be part of what we put into the beach ordinance. That would be a hearing, and once it's passed by the voters the first time, then, as Nancy pointed out, it goes into the operating budget where the signs will be funded out of the operating budget of that year. We're not talking about Geneva or Pard Shore Beach this year, if we even get to this year. That answers your question. So once this is voted, we say the voters want this whole structure to start to begin. And from there on, it would not come back to the voters, it would be in the operating budgets. So the additional signs would be out of the operating budget going forward.
Is there further discussion?
He didn't mention specific beaches, he just.
Said it's
We didn't put it in the warrant article either.
within 100 yards of the beach, it is the language, yes.
It's okay, it's cool. I'm going to suggest that we vote the amendment down. I think everything you have in there is a wonderful suggestion, but it's muddying the waters. That's beach ordinance changes, and I think these are great suggestions for the beach ordinance. We're just voting, really, do we want permits or not? And then we'll look at the details, and there'll be meetings, and again, another opportunity to vote. And these suggestions work great, but do we as a body want a beach permit? That's what this is really asking.
Larry?
Watch that. Mark?
I also think that you should vote this amendment down, because what the language does here goes into another ordinance. He's starting to change the road ordinance, which prevents the parking on the roads. So this is really going outside what this warrant article is about, and even the subject of what the warrant article is. So I would advise you to vote no on this amendment.
Yes, Bob.
One quick comment, just so everybody knows. We don't get to vote on the beach ordinances. We give input we don't have a choice in those decisions.
You have a hearing.
We have hearing and we have a way of giving opinion. Then you can do whatever you want after that hearing, right?
That's what the state law is, yes?
No, I just was, everybody knows that.
But then you vote those villains down that hear you and decide that we're gonna do what we wanna do. You just get them out.
Is there any additional comment on the amendment to the language? None? Well, then let's call the vote. All those, I think we're going to have to give that to the clerk so we can have the language. All those in favor of the amended language? I see no cards. Oh, 2. All those opposed? Many. The amendment fails. So now we're back to the original ordinance or article as amended to $2,800. Is there any further discussion on the article as amended? None? Then let's vote. All in favor? 4, 5, 6, 7, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. All opposed? 6. The motion carries.
Point of order.
Yes. Well, we can give it back to you after we copy it.
15 to 6.
It's- All right, so that's Article 6. Do you have anything on Article 7, the beach parking ordinance? You have nothing that you want to, oh, how about those? My first official. Article 2, the voting is complete, and there were 22 yeses and 0 nos, so Article 2 passes. And do I hit?
You want to wait for the other one to get that?
Yeah, I'll sit down. All right, let's see if I can, I'm going to hit the down button. Oh, all right, there you go. And then, do you hold on? to this?
7's next.
7's gone too far.
Oh,
That's all right.
beach parking. All right. Oh,
Thank you.
wait a minute. That was fun.
Thank you.
So what were the numbers?
22.
For Article 2,
22 and
Okay.
22 for nothing?
Brings us to Article 7, beach raking. To see if the village will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $750 for the purpose of beach raking. Funding for this appropriation will be raised by taxes.
Motion?
Mark. And seconded?
Second.
Second. Who wants to speak
I'll
on
speak
that?
to that. Last year, we used some money in the grounds and rec budget to hire a contractor who brought a skid steer. A Bobcat was the brand name of the original machine. If you know what this is, it looks like a small front-end loader, and it's very maneuverable. And there's many attachments that can go on a skid steer now. One of them is a power drum they take the bucket off the front of it and they put a drum, a steel drum that spins, and it has teeth on it that are 2 to 3 inches long. And we hired a contractor from Conway who brought the machine onto the little beach, and our crew worked with them and picked up things that the power rake brought up out of the sand. This started with me going down with a shovel in the early spring and finding that there was a lot of sand already on the beach, but it was so hard packed that I had to stand in the shovel to get the spade down into it. But it was at least 8 inches deep by my shovel. And I turned it over, and the highway guys felt bad for me and decided to say, you can have a contractor bring a machine in. So we doled out $125, and this gentleman went up and down the little beach and turn the sand up. And the DPW guys moved stuff and pulled the big rocks that came up. And everyone seemed to be really thrilled with what happened there. So what we're proposing is that we have a budget of $750, that we do the Little Beach again. We want to see what the beach looks like after the snow, because we don't know how long it takes to pack back down. We would stay 10 feet away from the high water mark, and we'll get into perch beaches in another warrant article. So there's 3 warrant articles about the beaches. You already voted on one, and there's this one, and then there'll be another one. So this is to do the beach that can be done with the power rake, which we see as Little Beach, both sides, squares, Edelweiss Beach, and Geneva Beach. Thusis Beach has too many roots. We want to cover that with another warrant article when we talk about perch beaches coming up. And Pirate Shore Beach is too hard to bring that machine on because it has even more roots in it than, those need more sand and they need to be terraced, which we'll talk about. So this is $750 to rake 3 beaches this year instead of the one that we paid $125 for last year.
Any questions? Yes.
Hi, Mike Dolan again. Is this just a one-time thing, or every week, or?
We're learning. Can I speak to that?
Yeah, go ahead.
We learned by doing it the first time, and the results were great. We want to see what it looks like after this winter, that one beach that we did, which was both sides of Little Beach. We're definitely going to do Geneva Beach and Edelweiss Beach, and then we will learn whether it has to be done every year or every 2 years. But we also have another warrant article to perch the beaches, which would change the nature of Thusis Beach next year. I'm getting into another warrant article. So to answer your question, Mike, we plan on doing it this year. We'll tell you after this year whether we're going to do it again out of the operating budget, or it won't come back as a warrant article, but we'll tell you in the operating budget that we're going to pay for it if we see that we need to do it every year. We don't know yet.
Right.
We don't have any experience with this yet.
How much would it cost to get that machine that you're talking about, to put on one of our machines?
Was it $125 an hour? Yeah. Mm-hmm. $125 an hour.
Any other questions? Okay, I'll read it once more. To see if the village will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $750 for the purpose of beach raking. Funding for this appropriation will be raised by taxes. All those in favor? All those opposed? One opposition. Passive. Okay. Article 8, pond level ordinance. To see if the village district will vote to allow the Board of Commissioners to update the pond level ordinance. So we have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we pass this.
Second.
Second. And what do you want to speak? Go ahead.
Yeah. 2 years ago, the legislative body approved a ordinance as written by John, who's here. And speaking personally for myself, I think the guidelines in it are very sensible. But there is one area we do have a point of contention about. In the ordinance says the VDOE Board of Commissioners may not amend this ordinance. But according to RSA 4717, and we've got a slide there, Bob, for the RSA 47:17. Can you bring that up?
Yep, hold on.
Okay.
Is that it?
So it specifically says in this RSA, the city council shall have the power to make all such salutary and needful bylaws as towns and make, establish, publish, alter, modify, amend, and repeal ordinances, rules and regulations, and bylaws for the purposes stated in this section. And one of the purposes is use of public ways to regulate all streets, wharves, docks, and squares. The dam at Boulder Beach, part of that system is the road. It's Edelweiss Road that goes over Banfield Brook. So We don't want to change the ordinance other than removing that wording that the VDOE Board of Commissioners may not amend this ordinance, because by this RSA, we absolutely have the right to change it. And again, speaking personally, I don't want to change it, but I want the board to have more flexibility to do what we need to do in certain instances. So I'll give an example. Article 3.4 in the ordinance says, in emergencies, potentially hazardous situations, and dam failure, the VDOE will follow the dam's current emergency action plan. That's fine. That's all good and well. But at some point, we're going to have to do an inspection, okay? An inspection to determine if there is any real issues with the dam. And an inspection most likely would require us to lower the water levels. Not something we want to do, but you can't do an inspection if you don't lower the water levels. And we as a board need to have the ability to do that. So that's an example that I bring up for this. Otherwise, I think the guidelines are good. We just want that wording removed.
Any other questions? Yes.
John Kancelarich. First off, you listed RSA 4717. Does not apply to us. This applies to city councils. We are a small town. There's different rules and regulations. Did you check with the lawyer on this?
Did we what?
Did you check with the lawyer on this? This is city council. We are not a city council. There's different rules in New Hampshire. We're a small town. There's different rules for towns and cities based on population. Towns work because we're in a town, a small district. We do ordinances. And this is exactly what he was saying here. In ordinances, you bring the ordinance to the town and they vote on it. That's how this type of representation works. This does not apply. You don't have the right to use this.
Did you check with the lawyer to verify that?
Yeah, I checked online with the New Hampshire State District, which says right here. Well, did you check with the lawyer? You
No.
didn't answer that question. You did not.
No, but we believe this applies to us as well.
If you go to New Hampshire, just the guidelines, New Hampshire, it tells you kind of how the rules work and stuff. This does not apply. Okay. Number two is you're doing exactly what Bob and here recommended is, let's look at what happened in the past. Last year, people gave you the right, you said, oh, we gotta change the road ordinance, and we need the right to do it. And you gave them a few listings like, we wanna increase the fine for track. But then let's look at what you really did. What you did is you actually changed it so that you now have, instead of 10 tons, you have 13 tons to use our roads. Not whether I agree or not, it's something that should be put before the people and not for you guys to decide. Also, what you did is the no parking. People might agree it or not agree with it. But once again, I agree with this person says. This is something we need to vote on as a legislative body of what's happening here. Okay? You did that as well. You restricted the parking at Hutwell. We used to have 30 days, you restricted to 4 days. This is something we as a group, that's why we come here annually, to talk about these things and vote as a legislation body instead of you guys deciding what you want to do. You're not listening
Point of
to
order.
us.
Yep.
Proper public hearings were held before any of these changes were made.
Oh, correct. It was held, and you did that. And
And
how many
we
people
followed
showed?
what they
How many
said.
people showed? You had one person show to your first public hearing. Hang
That
on.
is not up to us.
You had
Who
one
shows
person
up?
show. I'm just saying it doesn't work in our community. You had one person show. You had 2 meetings. On the second one, no one from the public showed. The same thing is happening with the beach ordinance, and the fact is, I think it's great to ask exactly what's happening. So what I'd like to do is, even this year on the dam, there were some problems with it that you didn't follow. okay? Whether intentional or not. You're supposed to put the boards back in at the spring. That was not done. I had to tell you guys to do that. There was gaps in your boards during the summer. I had to tell you, close up the gaps. Even at the end of the season, we had the driest drought ever recorded in New Hampshire. You guys did a drawdown of 16 inches of boards, and that's not even allowed in our ordinance. This is not a focus with you. I think the waters are so important to us, it's what we have here, that you should change the ordinance and bring it back to us as a body so we can vote on it. It's as simple as that. So, what I'd like to do is I think that's something we need to think about, and I'm going to give someone something to propose as a motion for this.
You want to make an amendment to
I
this?
cannot make an amendment. I am not a voting resident.
Okay. I need it in writing, though. I do need it in writing, whoever's going to do it, right?
So just on the Hutwell parking lot, just a clarification. So it
Wait a
used to.
minute, we're not talking about Hutwell.
Okay, sorry. Okay, I was just clarifying a point he made, but I'll skip it. So I think we can all agree here that the ponds are the greatest assets of the Village District of Edelweiss. Right? Without the ponds, the VDOE wouldn't be what it is, the properties wouldn't be valued where they're valued, and our taxes wouldn't be what they are, and the VDOE wouldn't have the attraction that it has. But like any valuable asset, the ponds need to be safeguarded. Therefore, it should stand to reason that the quality of its water and the abundance and health of its wildlife should be of significant importance to the commissioners. At the 11/25/25 special budget meeting, Mr. Grantham admitted what we all know. The ponds are deteriorating. In our 12 years of owning a home on Big P Pond, we have witnessed the degradation of the ponds and the loss of wildlife. And nearly all of that damage is man-made. Let's talk about frogs. The New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services considers frogs an indicator species, a reflection of an organism whose survival or lack thereof in certain habitats is a reflection of the overall quality of those natural systems. We have far fewer frogs in recent years than we had a decade ago. Bullfrogs have completely disappeared. The ponds in the spring used to teem with these giant bullfrog polywogs, thousands and thousands of them. But in the winter of 2016, 2017, the commissioners at that time directed that boards be pulled from the dam. When boards are pulled from the dam, the amphibians that are hibernating at depths of 6 inches to 36 inches below the surface, lowering the water levels causes the waters to recede and become shallower, and at certain levels the ground to freeze, causing the amphibians hibernating in those shallower areas to freeze to death. Just like that, the bullfrogs were wiped out. Lowering water levels after October 15th violates New Hampshire Fish and Game guidelines put in place precisely to prevent this from happening. That spring 2017, there wasn't one bullfrog polywog, and 9 years later, there still aren't any. The point of this is that the focus is not on the environment. In my 12 years of experience having a home here in the VDOE, I think the commissioners unintentionally have done more damage to the ponds and wildlife than good. The ponds continue to deteriorate. And now the commissioners want the authority to change the dam policy however and whenever they want. I implore you not to give them that authority. Thank you.
Yes.
Jane Gunn, through Geneva. I totally agree with what you were saying about protecting the water and everything, but the middle pond as compared to the large pond are two different places. I do think the water levels could be kept high. I do think in the past the commissioners were lowering it too much. I don't think this is what they're asking for, at least I would hope not. Also, you have to figure in with the bullfrogs, there's also a bacteria or a viral infection that has decimated frog populations all over the world, and the bullfrogs are the ones that were spreading it. So a lot of it may have been that in your area where the water was taken back and they didn't their hibernation was revealed, that could have led to their dying. But in our pond, which hasn't had as many issues that way, they also died off. So I think there's two things going on there. We can't put it all on the water levels. I do think being on the middle pond and having spent a ton of money to get FEMA to recognize that we weren't in the pond just recently, we weren't in a flood zone. There have been times when the rain has been so heavy that people on our pond were flooding. And I think in those emergency situations, there should be, I don't know how you would handle it, but I would like to have some power given to the commissioners. And I don't feel blaming these commissioners for what the commissioners in the past did is fair.
Mr. Moderator?
That's fine. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. Okay, we as a board have followed this ordinance for the last 2 years, and if we failed somewhere, it wasn't because we were thumbing our nose at the voters. That was never the intention. It's just we're all human. We got a lot of things on our minds. Sometimes things slip, but we, to the best of our ability, followed the guidelines of the ordinance, which I said, at least on my behalf, I thought was a sensible one. And Jane addressed that sometimes the waters get too high on Middle P. Well, there's a marker at the spillway that if it goes above that, we're allowed to pull the boards in accordance with the ordinance. Of course, we didn't do that last summer because, as we know, there was a drought and the water kept going down and down and down. And John mentioned the gaps in the boards. Well, I think my research says those gaps were intentional because you can't dry up. You can't dry up Banfield Brook downstream of the spillway. There has to be some water still going through there. So I think that's a non-issue. And again, the non-issue is we want to stick with the guidelines as set forth in the ordinance, other than if we do need to draw down the levels to do an inspection on the existing spillway and dam, which might be needed and I can guarantee you sometime in the future it will be needed. We don't want to get into a situation where we have to replace the entire dam and spillway like they're doing in Madison. And if you heard, that's $1 million plus project. We'd rather do that, take a look and see if we can repair it, if repairs are needed, instead of wholesale replacement. And we just need that flexibility. But the idea is to still stay within the ordinance guidelines as they exist now. We'll do our best to make sure that when it comes, when the boards get pulled and when they get put back on, that we'll stay within the proper dates. If we didn't do that in the past, I apologize. I'll take a personal hit on that.
Paul?
I'd like to make a motion that we could add some language to Article 8, and it would be by submitting a warrant article for approval at the annual town meeting as decided. And it would be charter number 635, semicolon 3.
What?
As described.
Okay. Just hang on to that because we're going to give that to, so do you want to speak on that? Explain what that really means?
Needs to be seconded.
I thought I heard a voice. Is there a second for that motion? Okay.
John Kanzlerich. Yeah, it just says by submitting a warrant article for approval at the annual town meeting as described in Charter 63, colon 3. It's just basically bringing it back to you.
Before they do anything?
Before they do it. They write the ordinance. It's just like a warrant article. They change the ordinance and they have to bring it back here for your approval. That's all I'm asking. Do you guys have a problem with that? To write it and just have it come back for a vote?
Realistically, the state laws clearly outline the requirements of the Board of Commissioners to change an ordinance, and nowhere in those state laws does it say it has to come to the annual meeting. All the guidelines clearly say the requirements for the public hearings, and holding that. I personally do not have a problem bringing it back to an annual meeting moving forward. But that would be something that should be within the right of the commissioners to make that choice. And if we had to have a public hearing in the middle of the summer because something was going wrong and we need to have an inspection done to drop the, we need that flexibility. That's it. It's the state law says it's under the commissioners.
No, it doesn't.
It does.
You're completely wrong on that. And actually, I can pull that out, but I don't want to hold up the meet. I'm going to pull it out. Give me a second, I'll just pull it out. But the question I have is this. If I've talked to WUDA, actually, and I sent the commissioners a meeting, what is the problem with the dam? And they gave it back that you guys had an inspection done last year and that it's perfectly fine, they did the inspection, and that it should last 100 years. This is what I got from the commissioners. So you're basically pulling the thread here that something could go entirely wrong with the dam. Go ahead.
Okay.
Well, I can't, I'm sorry.
If that comes back, that would have been a personal conversation that you had with WUDA.
No, this was directly through I contacted your commission of the whole and stuff. WUDA addressed it. You had him address it. So it was directly public knowledge of that email that came from the commissioner.
So it would have been the DES required inspection, which is not a structural inspection done by somebody to see the hole that exists down in the dam.
He took a picture of the hole.
He did.
Yeah. So my whole thing is just,
You didn't take a
I would
picture of
like
the
this
hole.
to come back to, you guys should decide
Oh,
what
you
you're
didn't?
doing. The waters
Oh,
is
okay.
everything. I think it's great. I would approve this amendment. It just has them come back to us what they want to do, and you approve it.
Just, if I.
Did you
What
say
up?
it would last 100 years?
He did just say it would.
No, I'm
Yes,
saying he
we
said
did,
100
I
years.
think it was it 2024? New Hampshire DES came in and took a look at the dam as best you could see it. It was a bright sunny day, it was hard to really see, but he took a look at it, and that was his opinion, that, this dam's good for another 100 years. However, I hear from our DPW guys, every time they take out boards and put in boards, they come back and say, man, that divot, I'm not gonna call it a hole. It's a big divot, but some water from the outside is coming in. They keep saying it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So it's very difficult to see, really, and assess what the situation is. And my gut feeling is at some point in the future, somebody's got to go down into the spillway and take a real close-up look at it. And that may require, I'm not saying 100% it will require, but it may require lowering the water levels to do that. It's a short-term price to pay, because if we've got good rains in the next season, everything goes back up again. But as John said, we had a drought last summer. We all know that. That all happened. But we didn't do anything to aggravate the lowering water level situation. We stayed within the guidelines of the ordinance.
Any other comments? Questions? Are we ready to vote? I'll read it once more, which is not quite clear. Basically, to see if the village district will vote to allow the board commissioners to update the pond level ordinance. And, I'm sorry, we get an amendment, we got to vote first. Do you have it in writing for me, so I can read it? I'm a little confused. Yeah, I apologize. Whoops. I hope I can read it. Okay.
Bob?
It was seconded by Nick Borelli. Okay, so where are we adding this? Okay, so it's going to read, to see if the village district will vote to allow the Board of Commissioners to update the pond level ordinance by submitting a warrant article for approval at the annual town meeting as decided in in Charter 63.5:3. Okay. Everybody in favor of the amendment? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All those opposed? Okay, the amendment fails. Which brings us back to the original, unless there's another amendment proposed. Okay. To see if the village district will vote to allow the Board of Commissioners to update the pond level ordinance. Give, what? I couldn't hear you.
Can I have the last discussion, or are you still discussing it?
I still can't.
Can he have the last discussion on that?
Oh, yes, oh, sure.
So here's the email from WUDA given to the commissioners and stuff. The indentation of this divot doesn't appear too deep towards its center, maybe a couple inches. However, its center doesn't appear to have some water seeping through. There's no indication, as far as I can tell, true breach leading to exterior casing, in which case I expect to see a lot more water pulling out. We had the Dan Bureau inspection, summer 2024. Doesn't seem too concerned, but again, it's based on observations. So I just want you to know.
What's the date on that email?
The date is October 29th, 2025. Okay? So the big thing is, I just, we've struggled before with the board changing the water ordinance. It's at a great position now, and you're giving them the ability to just change it how they want. They can lower it as long as they want, and you are covered by the other material. Let me grab one more document. This is the emergency action plan. This is what covers you on all things that happen with the dam. Now, when you look through this, the big thing is maintenance. It follows maintenance of what you need to do with the dam. So, this is where you follow up. So have you been doing monthly dam monitoring and inspections of your dam? Have you done any maintenance on the dam this year?
There's been no maintenance.
No maintenance. Have you done monthly inspections and filled out this report?
We've been doing
Yeah.
inspections.
So
Inspections, yes.
I can go to the office and find monthly reports on this.
Probably not.
What's that?
Probably not. I
Probably
don't think
not.
so. That's a very good point that we need to reinstitute the monthly inspection.
Okay. In here is actually dam operation preventive actions. So you are covered in here on what you need to do to prevent emergencies on here. And I just feel that this is another ploy to just take over the dam. We need to control it. I can't say it enough. We run in this over 10 years where commissioners decide what they want to do. Same thing happens with the beach ordinance or anything like that. Without the details to us to vote on, I would actually vote this down. I'd vote this down and then have it come back. Go ahead.
Okay.
Are we
Mark,
running the meeting now?
move the question.
Yes, I've been around this dam for 48 years, and I wouldn't describe, there's many videotapes by a National Association of Dam Keepers about the way different concretes fail, and I wouldn't describe it as a divot. Our DPW is there when the boards are taken out and they can see into the dam. The ordinance now has the dam having, it's called the sluiceway, actually. The dam is the road that goes in front of the playground. That's actually the dam. That holds the water. The sluiceway is the concrete that lets the water out and allows us to maintain the levels. The dam has been documented as having a problem. The DPW will tell us that the water is flowing through this failure in the concrete. It's about the size of a softball into the sidewall. We can't see what the other side looks like, which you really need to do to evaluate it. That's under several feet of mud. You would have to lower the level, excavate the mud out next to the concrete to see what the other side of that failure looks like, to really know what's going on. Every time I've gone down to the dam, because the ordinance says the water has to flow over the top of it all the time, if the water level is high enough, you can't see anything. The dam inspector took out his iPhone, he put it down near the grate, and took a picture of the water flowing. You can't see it unless the water level's dropped. So you can't do an inspection of any type with the water flowing off the dam. My main concern is the DPW workers that have to go out onto that dam to do anything with the boards. The metal rails that keep the DPW employees from going into the water and getting sucked into the sluiceway, which would be a very bad thing to happen, have not been touched since the sluiceway was created. I'm very concerned about the bottom. I think the DPW has noted to us that that metal is rotting. How do we fix that if the ordinance doesn't let us drop the level at all? Last year, or 2 years ago when this was in front of the board, a proposal came from the floor, and you wouldn't allow that proposal to be amended. You allowed what the commissioners put up to be amended, but once that proposal was voted in, you wouldn't allow any amendments to it. So at that point, I said, I'm out of the responsibility of maintaining that dam. I can't see it. The guy that doubled his price from the state to come out and inspect it took pictures of the water flowing in front of where the failure was happening. So the ordinance says we keep it up. It says we're supposed to inspect the dam. I go down there every month, look at the water flowing over the top of the dam. I can't see anything. I'm looking at the rod and metal saying you can't fix that unless you can drop the level of the dam. That only has to drop by a few inches. To see what the outside of the concrete failure looks like, you have to drop it several feet. We can't do any of that.
Okay. Move the question.
Hi, I'm Diane Rozak. I just want to point out that I think we are all suffering from the former commissioners. We're lacking trust in our commissioners. We voted these people in, and at some point we have to start trusting that our vote means something. And I think these current commissioners have done an excellent job explaining all the problems that they've encountered, and they've done an excellent job working for our community. And at some point, we have to start trusting our commissioners again. So that's what I need to say.
All right. Are we ready to call the question?
Thank you.
Quick, very quick.
I'm sorry, it's just,
You did have your hand up before I said that, so.
so it's right here. This is the emergency action plan, which is given to the state. The Dam Bureau requires it. It's over 35 pages. Preventive actions, things you do, preventive action, ensure the dam is regularly inspected. It's all in here. The stuff you're talking about is in here. You have the right to take it down to do your inspection. You don't
Once a
have to-
month?
It's
Drop
in-
the dam level once a month?
What's that?
You want us to drop the dam level once a month?
You
No,
can't
no,
interrupt
first
me.
of
It's
all,
not what I'm
right,
asking.
right.
What I'm saying is that you have the right to do regular inspections, ensure inspection frequency, ensure reports are maintained, things like this, ensure the EPA. It's all in here. It's called
So what you're
preventive-
saying is they already have the
They already
ability
have
to
the-
lower that thing?
Absolutely.
To lower it?
Absolutely. It's not part of what the ordinance is about. This is covered on the emergency action plan. This is exactly how they do it up at Silver Lake. They have what they regularly do at, that's what the ordinance represents, and in the ordinance, it states in ours, the emergency action plan. Inside the emergency action plan, 22 pages given to the state. Are you guys familiar with this?
Yes.
Okay, in this is given to the state, and it covers all the categories: general responsibilities of the dam, notification procedures, preventive actions, projects, impacts, all the training, everything you need to do is covered in this plan. They don't need to change the ordinance for that.
Okay. Are we ready to vote?
No. So I want to hear from you. Are we allowed to drop the level of the dam once a month to fulfill the requirement of the inspection so we can see what's in it?
It certainly sounds like that to
Or
me.
do we hear criticism because we didn't bring the boards back in for the year fast enough?
Based on what I just heard him say.
asking you.
You would have, I'm not under the authority.
I'm asking as the moderator what we're hearing here, because I
can
can't
only
talk
tell
to
you
him. He's
what
back
I'm
up.
hearing is that you would have the ability to do that.
If it's an
Great,
inspection.
that's all I
and-
need to know.
And you
We
have
can
to
drop
do
the-
an,
We can drop the level once a month.
see, this is what I'm going to comment on this if I could.
Right.
This is what I'm talking about. This is not the control we want. We want you to to tell us what you're doing and not just haphazardly do it. You can drop it to do an inspection, yes. You can. It's in the emergency action plan. You have to do inspections. You are allowed to do that. But the stuff that happened this year was not for inspections, if that's what you're looking at. The complaints I had that you didn't bring the boards up during the right time, or that you dropped 16 inches at the end of the season on a drought, that's not doing inspection.
Okay, I think we're ready to vote. I'm going to read it once more, which is simply to see if the village
I apologize for my time.
district will vote to allow the board commissioners to update the pond level ordinance. Where did my pink? Okay. All those in favor of the article? All those opposed? You what? I went too fast?
Too fast.
All those in favor of the article which I just read? Okay, that's better. Keep it up there. I'm counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, all those opposed? The motion carries. Okay. Okay, so before we go on to Article 9, we have the results for Article 3 as well, which is the second truck. Yeses were 19, noes 3, so that passes as well. And we
I motion
can
we
go
go to the
back.
operating budget.
We can go back to the operating budget, which is Article 4. Article 4, now I gotta go. Okay. To see if the village district will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $833,730 for general municipal operations. This article does not include appropriations contained in special or individual articles addressed separately. Funding for this appropriation will be raised by taxation. Now, here is the list. You, as a body, have the right to make motions to change these numbers. That doesn't mean that the commissioners have, but let me say that. You can make suggestions here, but the only thing we're going to vote on is the bottom line. Okay? That's the way it has been. Now, before we get going, we need a motion to.
I made the motion to
this
open this
amendment,
article up.
and
Second.
Second. Now, you want to make an amendment first, right?
We want to lower it in two places, but the bottom line is we could add it together and do it as one motion. So it would be the $10,000 plus the conservative estimate of,
Okay, since the warrant articles for the big truck and the Dodge Ram were passed, then we can lower our repairs and maintenance expenses that we originally budgeted. Not completely, because we're still going to be having these existing trucks at least until the summer. So our proposal is to lower the repairs and maintenance for the trucks by $6,000. We budgeted $65,000 total originally for all our vehicles, the backhoe, grader, everything. So that would go down to $59,000, because we anticipate when we get the new trucks in the latter half of this year, it'll be regular maintenance, but it won't be repairs.
I think you should make a motion for the
make a motion
total
for the
dollar
total
amount
amount.
you're lowering the bottom line.
Okay, all right, do you bring up the 10,000 as well?
You add that in, yes.
Okay, so,
Total of
as
16.
Mark indicated before, he wants to lower it by 10,000 because of the gravel, because we have the FEMA money. So I'm gonna make a motion that we lower the total, can you go back to the other slide, Bob, the one you just had, which gives the 833?
Well,
Go back, yep. Yep.
We're amending this article, right? To a certain number instead of 833?
Yeah, but
So
go back to
what
the
is that
previous
number?
slide.
What?
Go back to the previous slide that gave the figures, so people can see the bottom line. Okay, I just want to let you know, the 833,729, if that was to stand as is, was only a 1.9% increase over the budget from 2025. Now, if we eliminate that 16,000, 10,000 for the gravel, 6,000 for the repairs and maintenance on trucks, the total budget comes down to $817,730, which results in a negative, a 0.28% rection over the proposed budget that was passed last year for 2025.
I'll second the
So we have an
motion to
amendment
lower,
made.
to
You gotta-
lower it to 800,000 to
No.
823,
817.
730, 817, 730.
Okay, now
Second.
you want to discuss that. Go.
Yes.
Anything more you
Now I'll
want to
say
add
it.
about that?
All right, sorry, I guess I jumped the gun. I'll second that, and I think I just did discuss it, that
Right.
why we're taking down by 16,000 from that total figure you see up on the slide.
Can I clarify that? We wanted to lower the line for gravel by $10,000 because we're going to spend over $50,000 of the FEMA money this year on gravel. And the other part was, as what it was saying, is we're adjusting down the maintenance line for the 2 brand-new trucks that we're going to buy. We don't know when we're going to actually acquire them. We're going to have to run these trucks until we get there, and they're going to require maintenance. So we did a conservative estimate forecasting out when it is that we buy the new trucks and not have to put the maintenance money into it. So that's the 2 things that we're lowering the bottom line here from the original 800 and, well, down to $817,730.
Right, okay. Any questions? Discussion? No, okay. So, we're ready to vote? Yeah,
On the
okay.
amendment.
We're going to vote first on the amendment, which was to lower it to 817,730. All those in favor? All those opposed? Unanimous. Now back to the main motion. As amended is to see if the village district will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $817,730 for general municipal operations. This article does not include appropriations contained in the special or individual articles addressed separately. Funding for this appropriation will be raised by taxation. All those in favor? All those opposed? It's unanimous. Now, where were we? Were we at 9?
Article 9, yes.
Article 9.
Yeah. Okay. Article 9, Como Zone PRV, to see if the village will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $80,000 for the purpose of creating the installation of a new PRV pressure-reducing valve pit for the Como Zone. Funding for this appropriation will be raised by taxation. Is there a motion to
I'll make
move
the
the
motion.
article? And
Second.
who seconds it? Who wants to speak
I'll
on
speak
it?
to it.
Mark?
Como is a very small street, short street, that connects Hotwell to St. Moritz. If you know the roads, you can picture it. It's crucial to the whole Hotwell, Byrne, Platts, Barden, and the houses out on Route 113, across from Community Market, and Lucerne and Altdorf. All those houses make up one zone because it's fed by one pipe that comes off Oak Ridge Road, comes down St. Moritz, through Como, and connects into Hotwell. That entire area, it's the fastest growing area as far as new houses go in the entire village, and continues to be that way. It's a 2-inch water line that comes down from Oak Ridge Road down St. Moritz through Como. There's an old PRV which looks like the well that Lassie would bring Timmy to rescue somebody out of. And it's completely filled with crystal clear rainwater all the time. Just wasn't, it was another hack that was done from the 60s when the water system was done by unqualified people with a backhoe. The engineer has designed a modern pressure-reducing valve pit. Pit is the old word for what's now a vault. It's an 4 by 8 by 4 underground vault. It's a small room where hardware goes into that room underground. And instead of just a pressure-reducing valve, because the pressure of the water coming off Oak Ridge Road coming down into there is high, because it's coming from a higher elevation, gravity is making the pressure high. We've always reduced the water. We don't have enough flow through a 2-inch pipe to have any more development happen in that area, especially the houses on Hotwell that are elevated off the road by the fact that they're at the foot of Oak Hill coming down into the flat part of, which is Burn and Hotwell. So the equipment that we're going to put into the new vault not only reduces the pressure, but also measures the flow of water. And that's what the engineer needs to calculate how and when we need to improve the flow of water, not the pressure. Pressure is the force. Flow is the number of gallons per minute under any pressure that you're getting. So he needs to know what is the demand for a full build-out of Burn, Hotwell, Platts, Altdorf, Route 113, to decide when it is that we need to put in a new 4-inch line coming from Oak Ridge Road down St. Moritz into the new vault. And what we tasked the engineer with is that we need more of these around the village, because Edelweiss has 2 high elevations, Oak Ridge Road and the foothills of Emerson Mountain, which is on the opposite side of the ponds, where Rhineac is at the foothill. We have elevations starting on Route 113 at 500 feet. We have houses that we have to repressurize the water up at the top of Oak Hill at 1,200 feet. This is a skyscraper that we're supplying water to, spread out over 5 square miles. So this warrant article is to fund the installation of the first PRV vault, and the new modern vaults that we'll be putting in multiple places over the next decade in the system.
Okay, any questions? Seeing no questions, I will read it once more. To see if the village will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $80,000 for the purpose of creating the installation of a new pressure-reducing valve pit for the Como zone. Funding for this appropriation will be raised by taxation. All those in favor? All those opposed? It's unanimous. Article 10. Close the medical insurance capital reserve fund. To see if the village district will vote to discontinue the medical insurance capital reserve fund created in 2016. Said funds with accumulated interest to date of withdrawal are to be transferred to the municipality's general fund.
Make a motion to move it to the floor.
Second.
Okay. Did you get that, Doug, Nancy, and Mark? And who wants to speak? Nancy.
That'd be me. This capital reserve was created in 2016 and never used. So this $5,000 has simply just been sitting there since 2016 in a capital reserve making absolutely no interest, as nobody has since 2016. So what we want to do is close this capital reserve, and in the next article, we'll be redistributing it to a proper use of the taxpayers' money. The budget for administration and employee benefits covers the district's portion of employee deductibles that we pay, you know? And it has been in the budget since this capital reserve was put into play. So it was one of those things that they set up this capital reserve and then put it in the budget and never used it. So we're recommending that we close this capital reserve, and by law, it automatically goes into the general fund.
Any questions? All those in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous. Okay. Article 11, deposit to highway equipment capital reserve fund. To see if the village district will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $5,385 to be added to the highway equipment capital reserve fund previously established. This sum to come from unassigned fund balance, No amount to be raised from taxation. Recommendations are, do we have a motion?
Make a motion to move it to the floor?
Second?
And Nancy, you want to talk on this too?
Sure. Again, as we just discussed, we're closing the capital reserve for medical insurance, which had the $5,385 in it, and we are now going to deposit that money out of the unassigned fund balance into the highway equipment capital reserve, where we think it will be of much better use for the taxpayers.
Any questions? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous. Article 12, Fund Waste Tank Capital Reserve Fund. To see if the village district will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $6,000 to be added to the waste tank capital reserve fund previously established. Excuse me. Recommendations required. Funds for this appropriation will be raised by taxation. Okay, Nancy, are you?
I'll make a motion to move it to the floor.
Second?
Paul, could you just get the right side up, please?
Yeah,
We just moved to 12.
hold on. Is that better?
Okay.
Oh, okay, Nancy.
All right. So there is a tight tank behind the DPW 1 garage that every so many years will need to be emptied. It's runoff from the garage floors. So it includes salt, sand, everything, snow, everything that comes into the garage when the guys bring the trucks in. So a few years ago, a capital reserve was set up. It was used a while ago to do the first emptying of the tight tank, and now we're at a point where we're thinking it's, if not this year, within a year, it's gonna need to be pumped again. So we're asking to put money into the capital reserve so that when it does need to get pumped, we will have the funds in the capital reserve to pay for it.
Any questions? No questions? All those in favor? All those opposed? It's unanimous. Article 13, update water hookup fee to $18,000. To see if the village district will vote to change the water hookup fee to $18,000. Mark moves it.
Second.
Nancy seconds. Mark, you want to talk?
Yep. Currently, the village has a water hookup fee of $10,000. That's been in effect for quite a few years. We are looking at some significant investments in the water system coming up. We need to put a uranium system in, which we haven't got to yet, I don't believe. We also want to put in a second well in the same well field as our main source of water, which is the DPW well field off of Route 113. That well field, through a 5-stage jacuzzi pump, pumps 178 gallons a minute and pushes it all the way up to the Jungfrau pump station that lifts it further up to the Rheineck station. The numbers we're hearing about putting a secondary well into the same source, just as a physical backup for the first well, should it have a problem that we could turn the second well on and supply water, is going to be in the area of $500,000. We're looking at a price tag for the uranium system of $75,000. The cost of doing stuff with the water system has gone up faster than the price of eggs and gasoline. It's just crazy with construction costs these days. The cost of the actual hookup, when a new house wants to hook to our water system, they pay $10,000. The amount of money we have to pay a contractor is a low end of $3,000. If there's a problem with rocks or something with the terrain, it goes up from there. So we're giving up more money of the $10,000 that we used to pay just to get the hookup done. The rest of it goes into the water assessment fund, which is where your $500, $525 payment goes. By law, it goes into something called the water assessment fund. With the cost of the state Department of Environmental Services said that the average cost of a well in New Hampshire starts at $21,000. Their research says it's $21,000 to put a well in. It could go up to $40,000, what their research is. That's the range that they say it costs to put a well in. So if a new homeowner is looking at deciding whether they want to connect to our water system or they want to put a well in, they're looking at least $21,000 for the well. If they do that, then they have to maintain that well. They have to have a utility room in their house where they have the treatment for that water coming in. Whereas right now they pay $10,000 and that's it. Now we worry about supplying water to their house. And if the system fails, the law requires us to deliver the water by truck to their house. So we see what the state says the cost of wells are, we see what the bills are, and as Pete Cry used to say, we want to give newcomers the opportunity to join us in paying for this stuff by paying the water fee up front, the hookup fee, to pay for the capital investment we've all been making in making this multi-million-dollar water system work. So that's what that's about.
Any questions? Okay. All those in favor? Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't.
Do we still have a lottery for hookups as well?
Do we have what?
A lottery for hookups?
No.
No. Okay. So anybody who applies can get a hookup right now.
The first thing that happens is we pay for the engineer to do a study to see whether that house is going to get, by computer modeling, whether we can supply the proper pressure to that house. That's the first step. They may get denied on that. If they're at higher elevations and they want to drill a well, good luck. They're in the $40,000 range, and there's no guarantee that they get water. But to answer your question is, there's no lottery. That was done for a short time 20 years ago? Maybe before both of your time.
No, it was 2007.
2007?
20?
It's almost
19.
20
Yeah,
years ago.
so 19 years ago? Yeah, it's a long time.
Seems like yesterday.
Yeah.
We haven't had a requirement for a moratorium or a lottery in 19 years. That's pretty good.
Okay. All right. Are we ready to vote? Okay, all those in favor? All those opposed? It's unanimous. Perch beaches, Article 14. To see if the village will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $2,000 for the purpose of perching one beach. Funds for this appropriation were raised by taxation. Who's moving it?
I'll move.
Mark moves it.
Second.
Nancy seconds. Mark?
I'll speak to this.
Yep.
The state requires waterfront homeowners, if they want to build a beach, a sandy beach on their property, they're requiring them to perch them. Perch means that you're building a system where the sand isn't allowed to easily erode into the water. That's not supposed to be so great for ponds and lakes at all, to have sand go into the water from these beaches. If you look at the Google aerial satellite photography of, say, the Little Beach has a lot of sand in the water. That accelerates the death of the ponds. The ponds are going to die naturally, according to the state, because of the runoff down Allard Hill, Oak Hill, Emerson Mountain, Colby Hill, and Rockhouse Mountain. All those high elevations feed streams that come down into all of our ponds, so they're going to get filled naturally. We accelerate it by bringing sand onto the beaches and then having the sand erode into the water every time it rains. What we want to do is an experiment with one of the beaches. It will most likely be Thusis Beach because it's a smaller beach and it's a steep beach. Idlewice Beach and Geneva Beach are not that steep. Little Shore, Boulder Beach, Thusis Beach, and Porridge Shore Beach have steep slopes into the water. We want to learn how to do this the right way. We're asking for the go-ahead in concept to do this with a budget of $2,000 to see how we would do Thusis Beach and then see how everybody likes what's going on there. The solutions for Boulder Beach and Porridge Shore Beach might be a little bit more complicated than Thusis Beach. But that's what we want to do. We want to start to build little retaining walls and figure out how to easily still pull the rafts in and out of the water in the spring and the fall and make them not so dangerous for people to be playing on beaches that have a terraced retention wall to try to keep the sand from going into the water.
Any questions? Concerns? Okay. I'll read it once more. To see if the village will vote to raise and appropriate $2,000 for the purpose of purchasing one beach. Funds for this appropriation will be done by taxation. All those in favor? All those opposed? It's unanimous. Moving right along. Article 15, road improvements. To see if the village district will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $17,000 for crack sealing Blinden Drive. Funds for this appropriation will be raised by taxation.
I'll move it.
Nancy moves it. What are seconds?
Okay. Pretty much exactly what it says. Crack sealing is gonna take all the visible cracks and throughout the entire road for Blinden and fill them in. It will help preserve the road for another few years, hopefully. Although we did a chip sailing, which is a different project, a bunch of years ago. They said 5 years, and 10 years later, we're still using the same road. So we don't know for sure how long it's gonna last, but we want to at least get it crack sealed. When you get a road crack sealed, you stop water from getting into the road bed. And that's the way to protect any road. Tony might fix me if I say something incorrect. But basically, that's the thought. And we know that Blinden is in pretty bad shape. We actually had somebody look at it, and their initial impression was that we should start over. Basically, rip it up and start over, redo the entire road. They thought that it was already gone too far. But at this point, we're not ready to do such a thing, and we figure we can at least take this step to protect the road for as long as we can. And it's the $17,000 for the crack sealing of this road.
Any questions? No questions. Yes.
Do we know how much it will cost to do the full replacement of it?
We don't have the actual cost, but we know that just doing the next step of crack sealing, or not crack sealing, chip sealing, was going to be $30,000.
Chip sealing of Blinden?
Yeah.
We didn't get a quote.
Oh, we didn't get a quote.
He didn't want to quote
because
it.
he wouldn't even quote it. So yeah.
To answer your question, I would say that we'd be looking at least $150,000 to rip up all the pavement, crush it all up, put a new bed in with crowns in the road where the road is flat. When it goes up inclines, you don't need to put crowns on them because the water will flow down the incline. But to do that whole paved section, I would say would cost us over $150,000.
Any other questions? Okay. To see if the village district will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $17,000 for crack sealing Blinden Drive. Funds for this appropriation raised by taxation. All those in favor? All those opposed? It's unanimous. Article 16, I skipped here, haven't I? Okay. Article 16, see if the village district will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $75,000 for the purpose of upgrading Muddy Beach Pump House, including but not limited to addition of uranium filtration system. Funds for this appropriation will be raised by water assessment funds.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Okay.
I'm going to address it.
What?
I'm addressing it, okay. All right, let me indulge you in another story, please. I beg your forgiveness, but in my household, when we have family members, cousins and sisters and everything, a bunch of people, I like to institute something called the 5-minute rule. So in other words, if there's a conversation going on, whether it's a gentle one or a heated one, and somebody just comes in to the room in the middle of it and then starts commenting, it's like, wait a minute, you don't even know what we're talking about. 5-minute rule. In the military, we used to get instructions, orders, messages coming down all the time, which would have to be discussed. And when any of the other officers started saying something, and it was clear that he didn't really know what he was talking about, the most senior officer would basically yell out at him, "Read the Foxtrot message." Except Foxtrot wasn't Foxtrot, it was another word. So where am I going with this? Where am I going with this? Okay, you've all received, over the past year and more, frequent notices warning you that the radiation levels from our Muddy Beach well have exceeded the maximum tolerance. Okay, and so a lot of people were freaking out. Oh my God, do I need to filter my water? Is this dangerous? What's it going to do to my health? And it's like, and to every one of those people I was able to discuss this with or answer on Facebook, whatever, said, did you read the entire message? Okay? Even the state of New Hampshire says, this is not an emergency. If it was, we would have told you so. Okay? And in addition, we, as the commissioners, have stopped supplying your water, if you're on the water system, coming from Muddy Beach since November of 2024. All right, but nonetheless, we discussed, well, do we just shut it down? And we came to the conclusion that no, it's still a very, very important source of water for the village district. You know, right now, Mark was saying we've got the primary well at DBW 1. If the pump there were to fail, we would have to bring up Muddy Beach immediately to keep the system operating. And we even said that in one of our letters, that if that happened, we would have to do that. We would notify everything to best we could, and maybe at the point we brought it up, maybe the radiation levels are above, uranium, excuse me, the uranium levels are above. Maybe they're not. We just don't know. But the point is, we got to stop this merry-go-round. And the solution to keep Muddy Well as a viable water source for us is to put in a uranium filtration system. Rock House, our neighbors, has one in their water system because the water that they get is pretty much the same source Muddy Beach is drawing on. So that's why we've had engineers come in, we've had some quotes put out. We just need your approval to put in this uranium filtration system. The good news is it won't be funded through taxation. We will fund it through the water assessment fund that Mark talked about earlier. And once we do that, it's up operating and operating correctly, then we don't have to spend $500 every time we have to send a mass mailing to everybody on the water system to say, oh, once again, the uranium levels have exceeded the New Hampshire state upper limits, which, by the way, are very, very conservative. But anyway, that's what we would like to do, put that uranium system in so that it remains a viable water source for the system to keep it going in case we really need to bring it up. Doesn't mean we're going to use it as a primary system in the future, but we feel we need it to serve the community.
Questions? No questions? Okay. Are we ready to vote? Or should I read it again? I'm going to read it again. To see if the village district will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $75,000 for the purpose of upgrading Muddy Beach Pump House, including but unlimited to addition of uranium filtration system. Funds for this appropriation raised by water assessment funds. All those in favor? All those opposed? It's unanimous. Okay, one more. Article 17, locally elected auditor. See if the village district will vote to create an elected auditor position. If this article passes, the new auditor will be elected for the year 2027. Somebody moving it?
I'll move it.
Second?
Second.
And
I guess I'll start, but I know Mark's going to help me on this. All right. It appears in the state of New Hampshire that the CPA firms willing to do municipal audits is shrinking. And the auditor we had for the past couple of years basically told us they're not going to do the Village District of Idlewice anymore. All right. So we started scrambling, calling others that we knew of, and they all said, can't do it. We're jammed. Can't take you on. Can't take on any new clients. We've also gone to New Hampshire DRA asking for recommendations. And we'll continue to do so. We're still looking for a new CPA firm, but we have a short-term problem. How do we handle the audit required for the 2025 fiscal year and this fiscal year too? Now, one of the solutions said we can appoint with your approval, a local auditor. And that's what this article addresses, to appoint a locally elected auditor to do the work. But there's still some complications there, but this would be the first step to try and address a multi-pronged problem. And Mark can elaborate on some of the issues we are encountering even with this solution going forward.
We are members, the village pays dues to be part of the New Hampshire Municipal Association, which has a staff of attorneys that can handle questions of generic nature for municipalities. They also now have a finance staff, and we contacted them about the situation we have. It's a two-step process to switch to a locally elected auditor. That can be one person, or we could have a board of 2 or 3 people doing it. There's no limit on how many people can do this. But we have talked to a person that is qualified with QuickBooks to be able to step in as this person who's a resident and a voter, registered voter. There's some downside to this. It's a two-step process. This year we could elect to say that we want one, and then it takes another meeting to actually elect one. So if you vote for this, it enables us to take that step if we need to take that step, but we can't elect that person until next year. What do we do about 2025? The Municipal Association also gave us a list of CPA firms that we're not familiar with. And we had the administrator contact them. One of them responded and said, we can do it for you, but we're talking about charging you $30,000 to $40,000 each year to do it. Currently, we pay about $12,000. So they want to take us from $12,000 to upwards of $40,000. The Municipal Association also told us that we should contact the State Attorney General and say that state law requires us to audit our books, yet the marketplace doesn't have anybody that has a CPA certificate to do it for us within reason. So if I had to anticipate what the Attorney General would say, they would probably tell us, hey, if that's the marketplace, that's what you're going to be paying. And you see that we're not budgeting $40,000 to have an audit done for 2025. What we're doing is telling you that you can give us the option if we need to go towards a locally elected auditor by passing this vote. We have to figure out more about what our situation is, because we're also being warned by the Municipal Association that should we have a locally elected auditor, we have to go back and look at the fine print on all of the loans that we have, because they say there's a probability that the loans you already have require you to be audited by a CPA. And then they also point out, going forward, if you want to acquire loans, they might require you to have a CPA. So we're just learning about this. So we have to figure out how bad this is for us. We need to contact the Attorney General to see what they're gonna say about the situation in New Hampshire where there's no CPA firms. I don't know if we can go to Maine or Vermont and what their marketplaces are, but it may be the same. So it's gonna take a lot of work for us to figure out what we are going to have to do to get in compliance with the law. We want the books audited every year, so we don't know how we're gonna get this done. But that all this vote does is say that if we do move in the direction of the local auditor, we can because you voted for this. We may not do that. We may end up having to pay through the nose. This is the world today.
Any questions? No questions? No
It's
concerns?
a big mess.
Okay. All those in favor? All those opposed? It's unanimous. Brings us to the last article. To act upon any other business that may legally come before the said meeting. Anything else anybody wants to? Okay, having nobody, I'd entertain a motion to,
Might help everyone in here. You know how Madison, in Idlewise, we have to pay a water access amount of a value of almost $52,000?
Right.
Okay. When the village was changed over, it looks like the group, Great Northern, gave all the amenities and all that, you know, the beaches, the cabin up above, and so forth and so on, back to Idlewise itself, not the people that owned the deeds. On the deeds, all that stuff was on it. That's not on our deeds anymore.
right.
So why is it that they can charge us for something that's not on our deed? Everybody,
But I've been wondering the same question.
okay?
Somebody said
now-
that we do, you're talking about specifically, what, 5 years ago or 6 years ago?
It was a few years
So
ago,
They,
yes.
the first time I think it showed up on our taxes, right? And at that point, I remember asking the question, and somebody said it's because the beaches could become private if you chose to. Not exactly those words, but that's what I was told by somebody back then. Then, of course, it jumped up to incredible
Went
amount.
20, then
Right.
50, okay.
Right.
Now, I did speak to someone in the state. They said if it's not written in your
Deed.
deed, they can't do that.
Right, well, somebody, not to say who, should have gotten a lawyer
Maybe you
and
can
fought
tell
it.
us.
If you want to hear my theory,
Yeah.
which I tested out against the person in town hall that talked the most to the assessors, who isn't there anymore. This is the situation, is the assessors look at the market value. The way they look at the market value is they look at the most recent sales, and they will look at your house and say, how close is the specifications that we have for your house to these houses that sold? So they have to do formulas to figure out how to say, this is the market value of your house. Now, when they did that, they looked at what Idlewise houses were selling for. And a very similar house outside of Idlewise in Madison wasn't selling for that amount of money. So they said there's something unique about the same kind of house being in Idlewise gets this kind of price, and that house outside of Idlewise doesn't get that kind of price. So what they did is said, what is it about Idlewise that makes these houses value higher just by being there, not being outside of it? Part of it is the fact that these could be turned into short-term rentals.
You're right, okay.
Now, they can't put a value on your house saying your house is worth more than the same house outside of Idlewise, just outside of Idlewise, because it can be a short-term rental. So what they did is use the factor of the ponds as a physical presence within the village, saying the fact that these houses are built in a community where you can get to these ponds, that you own a percentage of the ponds by the fact that you own an Idlewise. So all it is a factor that they used in their formulas to figure out how to justify why the Idlewise houses we're selling for more money than the same house outside of Idlewild.
What you're saying about the short-term rentals, that's true. I did talk to
I think it has more to do with that, but they couldn't use that as their
right, they say they're
weighted
looking at
factor.
it, and that's really where it should be. However, if that's the case, why don't they do it? I mean, I don't think I need to get into everything, but the thing is really, if as a group, you go, if the town's getting the bulk of that money, not Idlewild, the taxes. And when it
School
comes.
gets the most of it.
They get the most of it,
School
not us.
does.
The school does, yeah. And again, we've always been the cash cow for the town, let's face it, for the school system.
And the town.
And the town. So if it's not on our deed, and the state, the representative of the tax department that I spoke to said if it's not on your deed, they can't do that. The town's not supposed to be able to do that. So what do you do?
Call it something else.
You challenge the appraisal.
Yeah, go to the
You know,
town.
You'd have
maybe
to
we
go
should
as a
all-
group.
Maybe we should all do that.
Right. Okay. Anything else anybody wants to bring up? No. Okay, well then,
Yeah, you know, the other thing, on the cell phone tower, question. We have an ordinance, right, that says anything outside of Idlewild will not get, you can't get access to from an Idlewild road. Is that something you're gonna be bringing up, or,
say that again?
Oh, boy.
oh boy?
We
Because
paid
it
an-
is in our
We paid an
ordinance.
attorney to give us an opinion on whether anybody outside, in this particular case, that cell tower company has the right to use what's called a paper road, because it's on our plan, but has never been logged. It doesn't exist on the ground. Now, Nick, it turns out that we asked the attorney to write a white paper so that we could put it on the web for everybody to see
Yeah.
what her opinion was. It's a dilemma for me because I question the opinion.
I do too, and that's why I'm asking this today, because
Then our situation is that we take the taxpayers' money and we get a legal opinion. You heard before, somebody asking us, did you get a legal opinion on this?
Yeah.
We try not to spend money with attorneys if we don't have to. In this case, we thought we had to. If you're in our position, we spent the taxpayers' money and our money to get this opinion. We put it out there. No one to date has told me, except for Larry Sodano, that they don't think that opinion is unquestionable. Because I question it myself, and you question it. That's three of us.
Okay, not only that, the ordinance supersedes anything after the village was terminated.
I'm not sure what ordinance you're
Well, I'm
talking
sorry.
about.
The way, you know,
The ordinance,
the ordinance that we have absolutely says that you're not able to break a curb into an Idlewild road, okay, if you're outside of Idlewild, period. That's the ordinance. So that ordinance would null and void anything that anybody says, because first of all, the roads aren't there. Secondly, the ordinance says that you cannot and use an Idlewild road to get for access to a piece of property that's outside of the Idlewild village.
That's the
Simple.
driveway permit, the driveway ordinance you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
John. Yeah. Yeah, so, and the other thing is, you let him do it, this guy's gonna, you know, it's gonna do more damage. We talk about roads, how expensive it is. Construction's crazy. It's a lot of money. When I started doing 100 years ago, it was $1,200 to put in a well. Pump, done, backfilled, okay?
No, 20.
It's $24,000, $25,000 all day long. On the low side, this whole thing with the roads, now if he goes and opens that up on top of that, you can have at least 30 houses up there without even trying. And that's gonna take away from, it's gonna cost our village money. And It doesn't make sense. That's why that ordinance is there. So that's the way to, in my opinion, that ordinance makes it. And just that simple explanation, it's not worth it.
We haven't had time to discuss this. We have many things on the stove here. But we do have a meeting scheduled with the company, the lawyer that represents the tower company, because they want to start laying out how they're going to use our paper road to get to the construction site that they want to build the tower this year.
Please let me know.
I have not even had the discussion with my other two commissioners, because it can't rise in priority to a level to take time for us to work on it. But I'm amazed you're bringing it up at the very end of the meeting, because we only have 3 weeks to decide anything before we're meeting with this guy.
You don't have that on you, do you have that ordinance? Oh, they do. All right, okay. I'm just, I'll be part of the committee if you need me.
Oh, good.
Okay?
Because the attorney said we have to give them the curb cut.
No, you don't. You can have it in black and white.
I question a lot of other things about whether we have to let them use the road at all.
Again, it's not even there. Just like that road originally was down to, in front of the old, oh my goodness, the sports area, the shooting range, the gun club. That's not there, that's been closed, right? Can't get up through there anymore.
You're talking about across the road?
Yeah, when you go to the end of the road, the high tensions are right there. That road used to go right to the club, right across from the club, the opening. That's been closed.
He's talking about the end of Clausen, going to
Okay?
113.
It's closed. How are we gonna get a monopole up there to begin with? The only way you're gonna do it? And not only that, he can get on his own access from his property, okay? But he doesn't wanna go through his property,
Right.
okay? Anyways, I would like to be on the committee.
Yep.
John Kanzlerich. The last thing I'd say is we voted on this ordinance, the driveway ordinance and stuff. So as a town that represents us as a town, so we ask that you uphold it and, don't permit it.
So I guess.
Or bring it back to the town next year for a vote
If
on
there
what
was a
we want
straw
to
poll,
do.
Bob,
Thank you.
would you be okay if we spent more money with another attorney to stop this? That's our question.
We can do a sense of the meeting, if you want to call this a sense of the village.
Yeah, I mean, here's an opportunity for us. We have 3 weeks before we start meeting with these people, and I have a hard time spending money again I don't want to be spending money finding an attorney that agrees with me at the taxpayer expense. That's the dilemma when you're in the
We as a
seat.
body cannot vote to review, at this point, of appropriating any funds.
No, I'm not
All we
asking
can do is give you a sense of the
We have
meaning
we have a
here.
legal budget,
Right.
right?
Right.
I'm just
Oh,
asking
exactly,
whether they
exactly.
want us
Yeah.
to see more detail, possibly talk to another attorney to,
A second opinion.
yes,
Yeah.
to see whether we have any
So
control over
is there a
this.
sense of the meeting, or would you want money spent to pursue this legally? That's the question.
I'll make a motion to do that.
No, no
You don't-
motion.
There's no
just
motion, we just get a
straw
sense of
poll.
the meeting.
Meeting's over.
So, yes? No? So you got your sense of the meeting.
Thank you.
Okay. Lastly, I just want to say thank you for putting up with me. Good luck to Larry. And we need a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Yeah.
And you dissolve it.
Oh, there's some.